Nation.
What is our lead topic on Tuesday's show? Man, the Beavers might beat Oregon.
From under center, McCoy fakes to Jam Griffin, fakes to Zachary Card, takes a deep shot down the middle. Caught! Touchdown Beavers, David Wells Jr. on an amazing throw by Giovanni McCoy.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
24-14 is going to be the final. Oregon finds a way. They get it done. And they get it done against a team that just came in here and said, you know what, we don't care who you are and that this is your home field. We're going to play football.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
Woody Marks might make it a moot point, and he does. Talk about all the field goals, and Woody Marks rumbles into the end zone, and USC is on top with 8 seconds to play.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Good morning.
What is happening?
How we doing? How was the 3-day weekend?
Oh, it was delightful, man. No stress at all. Some good cooking, hanging out. Went for a good run yesterday. Nothing to see here. It was a great little 3-day weekend.
When you say no stress at all, it makes people think you actually were stressed.
No stress
and
at all.
Dealt with something.
No, nothing happened at all. We were
Okay.
just hanging out, relaxing on a 3-day weekend, man. Finally got Labor Day off. Just blessed to be alive.
My relationship's great. She definitely didn't cheat on me. What?
No, the stress isn't personal related. It's more fandom related. But we'll get to that throughout the course of the show today. No, nothing to see here. Yeah. I had a crazy dream this weekend. You'll never believe it.
Really?
Never believe it.
Crazy dream?
Crazy dream.
What was it?
Oregon almost lost to Idaho. Crazy
Oh,
dream.
well, yeah,
Crazy dream.
No,
I
no
woke
way.
up and I was like, wow, that was nuts, man.
Wow.
Woo! A little spooky season. It's Halloween, is it?
I was wondering if we collectively as a show owed the state of Idaho an apology at all. We doubted both those spuds, and for one half in one game, it was like, oh, what's going on here? And the other one was like, what the hell's happening? I don't know.
The fighting spuds. I think we do.
Spuds.
We were going to air a promo this week that was making fun of potatoes and like
Yeah, I
chopping
got
up
to
your
figure
potatoes.
out what to do with that after the show.
I don't think we can do that. I don't think that's an applicable promo anymore.
I got to see if there's a way to pay some homage to the spud.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it this way. You do play that, and then a radio station in Boise picks it up and goes, look what they think of us.
Exactly.
Another chip on the shoulder for
yeah,
another Idaho
we
program.
don't need any bulletin board material this week. Let's go ahead and not
One
piss
more
anybody
Idaho
off
school
and,
coming to the Northwest this week.
We're not done with the state of Idaho yet, okay? So can we just pump the brakes a little bit on making fun of
Need
them?
to tackle number 2 this Saturday.
Are there any other Idaho schools? Is this just
Oh,
three?
Good
not at this level.
Okay, all right. But crazy that we play all three like
We
wham
get 'em all.
bam.
What is there? There's like the feeder school. It's like the College of Southern Idaho or something. It's like a,
it's like a community college or something?
junior college or something that guys go to.
Yeah, I'll look up the colleges and universities in the state of Idaho. I don't think there's any left after this.
No,
Yeah.
these are the 3
Yeah, I don't think
Division I
Boise Bible
schools.
College is not coming through.
No,
the College
no,
of Idaho, Southern Idaho, feisty program. Don't think we're playing them this
I think
year.
this is kind of my fault though too, because I've been crapping on the state of Idaho for like the last month.
You know, some of it they deserve, but it's also beautiful in parts.
Yeah,
You know,
parts.
parts of it. Parts of it's gorgeous.
And parts, is it plural or is it singular? Like, are we talking, what does everybody go to? Coeur d'Alene.
Coeur d'Alene.
Actually,
yeah.
Boise's pretty nice.
I've been to Boise.
I've never been to Boise before.
Spare me.
Yeah, you out on Boise?
Yeah.
Hey, come on. Boise's. I hear Boise's gorgeous.
Yeah, I've been
great
to Boise.
college town.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Great college town.
Beautiful people.
I've floated the river.
Beautiful people. I don't know if I've ever been loudly S-talked walking through a city as I was when I went to an Oregon State Boise State game on a Friday night before the game.
Yeah, well, we had a player punch a guy in the face on the field at Boise State. you
Well,
know.
yeah,
It's a bit
because
of
you know what? They
yeah.
say a lot of stuff.
They use words that you shouldn't probably use in certain situations.
Things are contentious between Oregonians and Idahoans.
I mean, they want to
Well, they're
take
trying
our
to steal our state, too.
They want our eastern parts.
No, I
you
think
can't have our
that's
eastern
more
parts.
our southern eastern peoples want to leave. I
Yeah.
think that's more about secession than them trying
But
to
Idaho's in on it.
Ah.
Idaho's in on it.
Yeah,
Let
they're
those,
pro.
Are they?
I think so. I think Idaho would land grab if they
Yeah.
could land grab.
Let those
Okay.
35 morons in Eastern Oregon just move. Like, I don't care about them and their opinions.
Yeah, we got good golf courses over there, man. I'm not losing those courses. What are we doing? Come on, I can't just give them away valuable property. They're not taking Bandon from us. They want that part too.
This was, you know what my biggest fear is?
Yeah, what do you got?
My biggest fear, without knowing the schedule next year,
Yeah.
and I think it's always going to be year to year, My biggest fear is that our boss regretted us having Monday off.
Yeah, I was thinking that the entire time.
And I'll say this. I understand why he felt the way he did.
Yeah.
I certainly woke up yesterday and it felt kind of weird to like holster another thing of we have so much to talk about that we're not going to get to it all today.
No.
Like there is no room in the show sheet
No.
to talk about the fact that an NFL rookie wide receiver was shot blank in the chest.
Yes.
And is going to be out for a minimum of 4 weeks, but he's not dead.
No.
And like we won't really get to that today.
No, he just walked out of the hospital the next day like nothing happened.
But I went to the zoo yesterday in our last hurrah day of summer with the fam. We got to the zoo. It opened at 9. Got there at like 9:25. And I'll tell you, despite how our boss may have felt about us having the day off in a rare case of who cares about the Idahos,
Right.
it still was the right decision.
Yes, it
there
was.
was nobody out there.
Yes,
and I
it
was
was.
on the road at 9:15, 9:10 a.m.
No traffic.
There was nobody out
Yeah.
because everybody has that holiday off. So it's more a feeling than it is a reality-based situation. There was
Yes.
no evidence that, like, oh, Oregon struggled.
Now everybody wants this.
Everybody, we can't talk about it. What a mistake this. No, there was nobody out there yesterday.
We'll get to it on Tuesday. Our openers next year, as we advocate for Labor Day off again. Oregon opens against Montana State.
Yeah, they're like, there's no reason.
Should be a dogfight.
Who's Oregon State have?
Oregon State opens with the Cal Golden Bears on August 30th.
And that's not a bad
Those are
little
your opening
start.
games.
And I mean no disrespect to my Beavs, but we're the home of the who?
We're the home of the Ducks. That's what
Okay,
we're the
so
home
this
of.
is all going to be driven by who Oregon plays week 1, and if
Largely.
it's Montana State, there's no reason to do a show next Labor Day.
Largely in agreement on that.
Yeah.
It was a little weird waking up yesterday and having, there's takes. The takes are boiling over. They've been building up since Saturday night. You had Sunday to kind of formulate all your thoughts and all your takes.
Yes.
I was ready to
As
fire.
rational thought kicked in for Duck fans. That's kind of more what I'm curious about.
We'll find out. We'll see what the text line looks
Because you
like.
look at the final stat sheet and you go, well, something doesn't compute. Because they absolutely dominated the football game except on one spot.
Yes, the scoreboard,
The
which is the
scoreboard.
most
Final
important spot.
scoreboard.
Yeah, Oregon has a good track record of doing that under Lanning. Hey, look at that. We won the box score, but we didn't win the final score.
That's not
count.
the only. No, that's wrong. That is not the only part of the box score they didn't dominate. There's another section they didn't dominate.
I mean, they didn't dominate in a lot of sections. They beat Idaho by 10 points.
Yeah.
They beat Idaho by 10 points.
When you have a Monday off, Georgia Clemson couldn't have felt like it felt like a week ago to me.
It felt like a very long time ago.
With
And
how much I watched Saturday and how weird Saturday was because I had to watch some of it in Seattle and then I had it on YouTube TV and the wife was holding that on the car ride down and then like I'm going home and I'm rewinding one game that I missed.
yeah,
And I'm watching some of the other coverage and I'm iPadding and it was just all day Saturday and then it's like Sunday, one game.
Thank you for the Sunday game being fantastic, by the way.
the Sunday night game was awesome.
We all had a feeling it was going to be, though, didn't we?
I think we did. Yeah.
felt like
but
very even
it could have
teams.
been sloppy and clunky, and it wasn't. I think it was pretty well played for the first game of the season between two teams that are supposed to be good.
Yeah, my only criticism of the weekend, largely, even though the storylines were funny last night with Florida State losing, that just said, I mean, that was the only criticism I had of if you're going to give me the solo game Sunday and the solo game Monday, can we make those a little bit better games? Like, spread it out. Everybody's watching their own teams. We're all excited to see our first games on Saturday. USC, LSU, you knew was going to be a pretty entertaining game.
You want a better game than that?
I want a better game than Boston College and Florida State.
Oh.
I mean, that was the only
I don't
criticism
know.
of
I
Labor Day
found
Monday night.
myself being more.
I mean, you're plugged in because Florida State's crumbling, but that game sucked.
Well, that was the
a horrible
storyline, but I
game.
found myself as the game went on being more interested in, oh my goodness, what does Bill O'Brien got and found? Like, where did he find this quarterback?
I mean, they just ran the ball.
They just ran it over
They
and over
ran
and
it down
over
their
again.
throats,
And
but
Florida State also, they are
They
not a good
suck.
football team.
They are
that
so
is-
bad.
Not a good football team. So
Boy, however you feel,
yeah, I'm not Florida State
whoever your
fan.
team is, you're not Florida State mad.
That's the one. So you're not Florida State bad. You didn't have the weekend like Florida. There were a few Clemson all of a sudden looking in the mirror again, wondering about their existence and will they ever survive. Like there were a few fan bases that had a really rough go this weekend, and that's the only silver lining whenever you're down. I did enjoy a moment though that somebody had a meme this weekend, and it was like basically it was somebody looking at their phone and the graphic of text messages, and it said on your birthday, and there's like 3 unread text messages. And then the next picture next to it in the meme was when your favorite football team struggles or loses. And it was like 192 unread text messages. And that was the funniest part of the weekend to me. Some people even waited to text me until Sunday, which I quite appreciated. And I got a few of those on Sunday that rolled in Sunday morning, and I was like, thank you for waiting one day, giving me a time to collect my thoughts. But it was just so fun to have football season back, and the energy was there for every fan base. And I love the trash talk that's going back, and my Twitter mentions were lighting up. It just felt good. Everybody's back invested. This is the one sport that we all care about. We're all in this together, and it's so fun to have football season back.
I sent a buddy of mine. He is a diehard Duck fan. It's like the only sport he cares about. He doesn't watch the NBA.
Yeah.
The NFL will be on. He claims to be a Cowboy fan, but like I don't think he can name 8 players on the Dallas Cowboys right now. He follows baseball because his kid plays baseball. He doesn't actively watch and root in baseball. He pretends to be a Giants fan, but he actually secretly likes the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's a weird thing.
He's not really a sports guy.
Sure, college football is his thing.
College. It's kind of college football and nothing else. And he's a diehard Duck. And I made a joke to him that I saw a meme that said, because he takes everything personal and serious, and I said, there's a meme out there that I saw before the season started, and it was like, I'm ready to be mentally damaged by what 18 and 22-year-olds do in the next 5 months.
Yes.
And the funny thing about it was I didn't text him right away during the Idaho-Oregon thing, but I had texted him something like some joke of he said he was having really negative thoughts about himself during a run, and I said, well, you're kind of a sick individual. And I said, well, I don't know if it was Idaho's defensive line bullying your O-line or your dad never caring about you, but I hope you run some of that darkness out of your system.
That's right. You go run that Idaho game out of you, man. You can get over it.
And he said, I've really been trying to work on not letting these things bother me. I'm working on being better. I feel like I'm almost there. In the moment, I'm not.
No.
But once it passes over, I'm over it.
Yeah, it's like a 3-hour rule as a fan. You got to give yourself that gap right after the game where you need to emotionally and mentally process what you just wish.
40-plus-year-old man that I'm talking about.
And then you move on. Next, you got the 1-day rule, and then you get over it, and the next day you get back to it. Is so true, man, how emotionally invested we are in our teams.
It's ridiculous.
And the reminder of that I didn't think I was going to get this weekend of like, oh, God, I care way too much. Why do I care this much? This is so stupid. I also I think one of the more underrated ad campaigns that exists right now on television is the Dr. Pepper fandom ads.
The Fanville?
Dude, I love
the hype train. The hype train's really good this year.
Well, because it happened to me this weekend. We were on the hype train, all steams ahead, and it was like, what does that mean? We got to get off now? I can't stay on the train? They are so spot on with the way that they label fans and the freakouts, and I saw that ad right after, realizing the outcome of the Oregon-Idaho game, and I was just laughing my ass off.
What you can tell on those commercials, I think why they are so good, is because I actually think they get input or it's being written by real college football fans.
Yes, people that understand the nuances.
Portal, the guy holding on as the windstorms.
Yeah.
No!
That's all right. We'll find another guy.
What else was funny from the weekend was, I want to say you mentioned it Wednesday, maybe Thursday, maybe Tuesday, sometime last week. And I love when the universe aligns and brings things back. You had mentioned on the show that you were like Pablo Escobar in the Netflix guy, standing with your arms folded behind, looking out, waiting for college football to be back. And I loved that I spied on you this weekend, and I caught you in a Pablo Escobar thinking moment on the sidelines, just like, what's happening today? I don't know what any of this is.
I mean, at one point during the second quarter, I thought to myself, is Ashton Kutcher going to run out of the tunnel? Is Oregon setting the record for the largest episode of Punk'd ever made? And the Idaho players are going to take their helmets off and be like, just kidding, we're the Baltimore Ravens. Ha ha ha. Let's start the game for real now.
It's Georgia again.
I'm in a bizarro world, and I'm having a hard time making sense of it.
Yeah, well, we have a lot to get to today. It'll be a busy show. We'll have audio. We got Dan. See, the other thing I have Monday off is we didn't get to react to the game. We already got a press conference about the game. Post the press conference from the game.
We have
two press conferences.
We have the press conference the media members got upset with because he wasn't thoughtful enough in his answers, and then the Monday follow-up press conference where he was more thoughtful.
Well, there's a lot to get to and react to. Your thoughts are always welcome in the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. They shoot you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them at VancouverFord.com. Let's buckle up, get it going. Dirt and Sprague, a lot of college football to react to next on the Fan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Well, I wanted to start with one of the biggest games from the Week 1 college football slate, but I want to read a tweet.
Yeah, what do you got?
I'm not past a certain point this year. I will not be active on social media. I've made a vow. School is here now. My kid is starting school today. My other kid starts tomorrow.
School days, man.
School is back in our lives. I weirdly had anxiety about it, as if I was going to school, but it's like more like what my life becomes with school.
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of things pop up yesterday, and I might have even more pop up today. And so, like, my life has suddenly shifted. So I didn't see this tweet from Aaron. I want to read this tweet. This is in reaction to the Ducks.
Yeah.
He said, and he's got an Oregon avatar photo. Okay?
Yeah,
It's a big
Duck
O,
fan.
Okay. He says, let me put it simply. While it's not time to panic, don't expect me to vow to eat dog poop out of a cup with a spoon if they lose to Boise State this weekend. Fair?
I think that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair assessment from Week 1. It kind of sums up how we're all feeling.
There's a Florida State fan who I'd never heard of, who vowed that if they lost to Boston College, he was going to film himself eating dog poop out of a red Solo cup with a spoon. I would say about midway through the first quarter when it was 14-0, his accounts got deleted. He started deleting everything, and now everybody's demanding this guy.
You need to eat the poop.
To eat the poop.
You need to eat the poop. If you're going to say you're going to eat poop, if your team loses, you can't come out with a claim that strong and feel that good about a team win only to watch your...
Dude, they got housed.
They got dog-walked up and down their field by Bill O'Brien and his butt chin and a little guy who looked like Kyler
Castellanos.
Murray. Yes, he looked like Kyler Murray. He's Boston College Kyler Murray. Had the little that's what the sound his legs make when he runs.
263 yards rushing. That includes the 50 negative yards from taking knees at the
end of the
6
game,
yard line at the end of the game.
I mean, holy hell, dude. It's the only silver lining is watching a team like that just absolutely flop and wonder where they're going to go. But if you're going to if you're an Oregon fan, you're not eating poop nobody's eating poop this week.
Are we penciling Mario into a top 4 seed? Because the ACC.
We'll get to that.
I love week one. I love it, dude.
Week one overreactions.
Never going to lose.
Yep.
He's the best team in the conference.
That guy's the Heisman. He's the best quarterback in the country.
I love the week
I've
one
watched
takes.
that guy play before. I recognize that Cam Ward. We'll get to that coming up.
Wait till they play a random team at 11 a.m. on the ACC network and he throws 3 picks in the first half.
I've already made that point. We'll get to Miami and Mario stuff. I know Florida State's down bad.
Mm-hmm.
They might actually have a quarterback problem now. Like, there was non-committal to DJ stuff in the postgame from Norvell last night. Boy, when everybody in the world tells you, you know what you're doing isn't right, right?
Right.
And then you watch it happen, and they refuse to acknowledge, and then everybody's right, and you continue to be the only one wrong. I'm kind of like wondering, should you even be a coach anymore? Because what happened to Dabo and Clemson this weekend?
Yeah.
I took them with the plus 12 on Sprague and Line. They're supposed to be top 5 talent composite.
They are.
Not beating Georgia, I get.
One thing, not a big deal.
Losing by 31 and looking like one of the most inept offenses I've seen in major college football. That's a different conversation. And I know it's an overreaction because they play in a garbage conference. But yeah, we told you the portal mattered. You continue to say it doesn't. And look at the gap now between you and the best team when you used to be the best team.
That's where you were 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Somebody had a great tweet that'll connect the two teams we're talking about. And it was, there hasn't been a bigger quarterback drop-off than Jordan Travis to DJ Uiagalelei since Trevor Lawrence to DJ Uiagalelei. That was floating around the internet yesterday. Two different programs who thought they could replace their guy with DJ, and it didn't work. And then Clemson thought, okay, Klubnik will be the response and the answer we need, and it didn't work for them last year.
He's not good.
Not good, and I don't think they have a very good offense. Their former players are questioning the program live on social media, asking why do we have so many white guys on offense? That was a thing trending for former Clemson players this weekend, which, valid observation. I'm not going to disagree with it.
We're all thinking it.
When Oregon lost the game the way they did to Georgia a couple of years ago, at least there was the idea that, like, Georgia was coming off a national title. It was Dan Lanning's first game. You had a new starting quarterback. Like, it just... the spread was only 14.5, but very similar final score. At least it was understandable for where Oregon was and the reset of a coach and a program. That's not where Clemson is. They have a coach who has 2 national championships under his belt. They have a coach who's still recruiting at a top 10 level, but his stubbornness is what's holding them back. Clemson's probably still going to go on to have a really good year this year because the ACC, as you pointed out, is terrible. Florida State sucks. Mm-hmm. Miami won 1 game. Like, let's wait and see with everybody else. The ACC is wide open.
UNC should have lost to Minnesota.
Yes, like Clemson
NC State struggled in their first game.
Yes, and they were hyped. Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt, man, and they went into the season with hype.
Boston College did that.
Yeah, and Boston College, so the ACC's wide open. They might go 10-2 this year, but Clemson is not a program that's just judged on, hey, we won 9 games this year. They're a program at this point that's judged on how do you hang with the big dogs. That was the big dog, and you were outgained by 300 yards. That was an ass whooping, and it was embarrassing for them.
Here was Dabo on his goals still being achievable.
We can't sit around and wallow in it forever. We got a long season ahead, and we still got a chance. There's not anything off the table for this team. And so it'll all be written when it's all said. Everybody, they're going to write everything they want to write right now, but it'll all be written in November and December.
Yeah, did you see some of the memes? They were going around before the game had even ended. It was like a picture of Dabo, and then it would be a quote, and it said, "You're washed," and then Dabo's quote in the fake picture would be, "Yeah, I'm washed in the blood of the Lamb."
When you play a team like Georgia, you get exposed.
I just,
and that's what happened.
it's to sit there and say like, "Oh, they can't win the ACC." That's ridiculous. That conference sucks. Their defense is good enough.
Open.
Yeah, it's
There's
wide
no
open.
I remember when
juggernaut.
this happened to Oregon 2 years ago. They looked up and won 9 in a row after losing 49-3.
Absolutely.
And they had Washington and Oregon State at the end of the year with a chance to win the Pac-12.
But there's nothing we can't do. Yeah, there is. You're not winning the national championship. You're not close to it. I'm not sure you're a top 5 team.
No.
But you win your conference, you get a first round bye, and so you'll maybe get that. But Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik, and
it ain't working, man.
With that off, God, it's one thing to lose to Georgia. Maybe you lose by 17, okay? 17.
They tack on a late touchdown. They cover the spread, whatever.
My Lord, man. That was a complete and utter ass-whooping no-show by Clemson. And honestly, I took them because I went to 24/7 Talent Composite. Let's rewire that program. And I took them with points. But I watched this at a restaurant in Seattle in Saturday morning, and I was actually delighted. I was rooting against my own Sprague and line pick. I'm like, couldn't happen to a better guy. I love this. I loved watching them just get bullied and pushed around. And they showed that graphic. It was like 4 programs in college football, 0 portal players. And it was like
the service academies
it's
in
the
Clemson.
service academy because they don't take them.
Navy doesn't take
right.
them. Yeah, Army
and then Clemson.
And Clemson.
And I said, yeah. Who could use a good wide receiver? Not Clemson. Who could use a stout, I don't know,
edge
offensive
rusher?
lineman? Not Clemson. It's unbelievable.
If only there was a way that you could improve your roster and fill holes that if only that option was available for you, Clemson could be a really good team. But unfortunately, the transfer portal just doesn't exist.
Dr. Pepper, he needs to watch the ads.
No, he's not. There's nobody jumping in the portal there, man. I think the other hard part with it, if you're a Clemson fan, is that their defense in the first half was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like their defense showed, hey, we can keep us in a lot of games. We just anything. Can we just find a pulse for a drive, pick up some first downs, give us some breathing room, score a touchdown, get a field goal on the board? But by the time they scored, the game was essentially over. And when you keep throwing your defense out to the wolves because you can't get a first down, they're eventually going to break down, and that's what happened in the second half. That was a 6-0 game at the half.
It was.
Their defense was stout in the first half, and they just crumbled in the second.
I'll say this, and then we'll get to the Miami stuff because I found that interesting this weekend. What did you make of Georgia?
I mean, just the reminder of, that's right. Good luck.
Yeah.
Nick Saban ain't here anymore. Good luck. I think Nick Saban's the only person to beat that team in the last 3 years, and he's done it one time. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
That was my takeaway from the weekend.
They felt different. I know they were only up 6-0 at halftime, but man, they really asserted themselves in the second half of that game.
No worried about the riding high off of a national championship. They're pissed that they got left out. There's the anger. There's the motivation to get back and claim their 3rd title in 4 years.
How many players were missing from off the field issues?
Dude, they suspended like half their team. Their star running back didn't play. They sat a bunch of guys in the first game, and they still took them behind a woodshed.
Everybody's talking about this team. They're the talk of college football. They're back, baby. They're back. They won a game and they're back. And we need to talk about that next on The Fan.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on The Fan, Ducks awaiting the first in-season AP Top 25 poll to be released later this morning to see just how concerned the collective media is over their closer-than-expected win against Idaho Saturday. Not expected to fall as far as Florida State, as the Seminoles were ranked 10th preseason but start the season 0-2. They lose at home to Boston College Monday night, 28-13, giving up 263 yards on the ground to the Eagles. Sunday was the deadline for the Pac-2 and the Mountain West to extend their football scheduling agreement into the 2025 season. No deal was struck. The two sides reportedly far apart on terms. Opening week of the NFL regular season takes the spotlight. Couple of teams scrambling to get key holdout players back at practice. The reports out of San Francisco this morning indicate the 49ers and Pro Bowl left tackle Trent Williams are finalizing a new deal. he should be in the fold for Sunday. In Cincinnati, the Bengals appear to be no closer to satisfying top wide receiver Jamar Chase. He was at practice, but not participating in drills. The Chiefs will open the season in 2 days against the Ravens, but have placed running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the physically unable to perform list, keeping him out for at least the first 4 games. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Well, happy September, everybody. Creeped up on us, and now it's here. We are in the full swing of football season now. We just talked a little Clemson getting their ass kicked by Georgia.
We're 48 hours away from Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson.
We are. I also made a mistake. I don't know why, but I spragued the line on Green Bay, Philly, but that's Friday evening.
It's Friday night, yeah.
So I'm going to be doing a rare waiting for my last Sprague and line pick from last week, but making 3 new picks this Friday. It's going to be a weird place to be in.
You have an incomplete record right now.
I'm a 1-1 right now out of the 3 with 1 pending.
Yes.
So there's a lot to get to. The talk of college football, I thought this weekend, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you felt it was something else. Maybe Notre Dame. I thought it was Miami.
I think there was 2 teams that shared the biggest spotlight, Notre Dame and Miami being the 2 on Saturday with their big wins on the road.
And I mean no disrespect to Notre Dame. We had a listener call us out for Notre Dame conversation last week. It doesn't feel like they're sharing it. It feels like it's almost entirely the U getting the attention. Cam Ward was awesome. Miami was awesome, and they stomped a hole in Gainesville and may have put Billy Napier on buyout conversation talk.
I mean, I don't know why he's still your head coach. The schedule only gets harder from here. It doesn't make any, what are we doing? Why did you bring him back for another year? None of this makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I also understand why you bring him back. This is his 3rd season or his 4th season. So some of this isn't always fair to those guys, but I text this to you, and I really meant it. About some point in the 3rd quarter, I would have just been like, I'm done. I don't care that you DJ Lagway. I don't see anything here with you that makes me think you're going to make this 5-star stud really good. Now, their athletic director, Strickland, was on Feinbaum on Thursday, and he said out loud, Billy Napier's going to win titles. Billy Napier's not going anywhere.
Of course he is.
And I laughed at that because there's the dreaded kiss of death, because I don't know if you could have looked worse.
No.
They look inept. They look unprepared. They're now going to go to a 5-star quarterback because Graham Mertz ain't coming back for that starting gig.
I mean, he threw for 91 yards in that game Saturday.
I would have fired him.
He's like a 5th-year quarterback. He threw for 91 yards in that game.
He couldn't open a water bottle in the post game. I would have fired Billy Napier after this game. I don't care what my schedule. I don't care. I'm admitting that we're in a bad spot, and I'm just moving on, and now I'm doing reconnaissance work on who's the next Florida coach.
It is crazy, too. The other funny part about it this weekend, and from the reaction of the loss, Dan Mullen has become one of my favorite personalities. Like, that dude has realized I'm living the fired coach buyout life, and I just get to be on TV and play golf, and I don't have any pressure. Like, he is winning at life right now. And him liking a tweet that basically said they fired the last guy to bring in Billy Napier after the last guy went to 3 New Year's 6 bowl games in 4 years. The only year that they didn't win, have a winning record was his last year that they slipped a little bit. They were 6-7 in his final year at Florida. The year before that, they were in the SEC title game. The year before that, they won the Orange Bowl. The year before that, they won the Peach Bowl. That's what Dan Mullen did in 4 years at Florida. He had 1 losing season, and they fired him. They brought in Billy Napier, who has had back-to-back losing seasons and is headed for just a catastrophe this year.
They're going to have a losing season.
Like, the schedule only gets harder from here, and the back end of it is the hardest we have ever seen in the history. Go look at their last 5 games of the regular season.
And they have a freshman at
quarterback.
It is
insane.
Now.
Like, good luck, dude. You're going to win 3 games this year.
Yep.
It is just crazy how far they have fallen off, and he has not been able to recruit elite levels at the high school level.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is a reminder of sometimes you don't need to press the panic button and fire the guy too soon, because the next guy, there's not a guarantee that he's going to be better. Firing Dan Mullen after 1 losing season was a joke. They shouldn't have done it, and now they're paying the consequences for it.
On the other side of that, Miami starts 1-0. They give Florida like their worst home loss. They score the most points ever at Gainesville for an opposing team. And now here we are, Mario, who came in with a sub-500 record by 1 game as the coach of Miami. Cam Ward throws for 385, 3 tutties. Damian Martinez has 15 carries for 65 yards, so that's a 4.3 average.
And mostly through the air, which is kind of a surpriser for Miami.
And 9-year college football professional tight end Cam McCormick scores a touchdown, so a lot of Pac-12 vibes in this game. And now everybody is just Miami, 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 because Cam Ward looked amazing, and they just stomped the Florida Gators.
I would like to give a name mention there to Cam Ward for his comments after the game, where he went in, not only beat Florida the way that they beat Florida and played the way that he did, He then made fun of their crowd and said they're not even that loud. And if you want to be loud, you need to cheer while we're in the huddle, not just when we're getting ready to snap the ball. And then proceeded to say that both USC and Autzen way louder than Florida.
Washington.
Washington
and Oregon were the two. He said they were both louder environments.
Pac-12 gets slept on. Like he was out there waving the Pac-12 flag. I didn't see Cam Ward doing that in game one. So shout out to Cam Ward for that. That was really cool. I think the reason the spotlight is so bright on Miami is because of the way they won the game, and I don't feel like that should be the reason. The reason it should be on Miami right now, and the same reason it should be on Notre Dame, is that they just crossed maybe their toughest hurdle of the entire season. Go have some fun in poking through Miami's schedule the rest of the way.
Awful.
They play Clemson might be the second. I don't know if Clemson's the second best team, but they don't play Clemson in the regular season.
They'll be 7-0 going into their Florida State game, and right now I'm picking them to beat Florida State.
Why would you not? Florida State's they're terrible. Of course you're going to pick Miami to win that game. Boston College, who maybe they're good, maybe they don't play Boston College. Like there's only 2 teams with a winning record in the ACC in conference play, and they don't play one of them. Their next 5 games, they got Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida.
Georgia Tech.
It could be. Towards the end of the year, they go on the road to Georgia Tech in November. Is that really a game where, like, that's not playing in the shoe? You're not going to Alabama. That's not a game against Georgia.
But hold on. Can I just pause this? Because I think valid points. I've looked at the schedule. I have a lot of the same feelings.
And Notre Dame is in the same line, by the way. They just got through their tough game, and now it's cake.
But I also, I kind of countered my own thought and feeling with, I did watch Mario at Oregon, and he had success. He also beat Ohio State and lost to Stanford, who was 3-9 that year. That was the same season.
That was. The next week, they struggled with Stony Brook, too.
Cam Ward, UCLA last year, 1 touchdown, 2 picks against an okay UCLA team, not a great UCLA team. I've seen Cam Ward be that, and I've seen Cam Ward make me go, what's happening
What
right
are
now?
you doing right now?
So, I'm not saying that these people, Mario, Cam Ward, that they can't be better. They can't, finally break through and not have these moments. But I've seen it to the point where I'm like, I won't be overly shocked if Georgia Tech beats them because Cam Ward throws 3 picks and Damian Martinez is slowed and Mario has a questionable coaching decision. Because I've seen it from both.
Yeah, I would say you're spot on that. Cam Ward has a wild hair up his nose in games that aren't primetime games from time to time. And when they get, Cal on the road in a ACC network game at 11 a.m. and he throws a couple of picks in the first half, it's not going to surprise me. I think the only difference that I have this year with it is just because of the expanded playoff. Like, you can get away with a hiccup or 2.
Sure.
Is there anybody after week 1 that we would look at in their conference and say that they're better than Miami? From a talent standpoint, Miami was arguably the most talented coming in. You just needed to see the quarterback play, and can Mario get out of his own way? He wins a big game. They look like the most talented team in that conference, and so that's a difference. Like, you could slip up here or there. Maybe they do trip up at Louisville randomly, or Georgia Tech gets them late in the year. But if you win the ACC, man, you're guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff. This is the one thing that I do chuckle at in the offseason with the Florida State stance. And it is very ironic that Florida State is 0-2, but there is a benefit to being in a conference like that. If Florida State this offseason or Miami or Clemson, either of these teams fought their way into this, say the SEC gives them an invite, like, dude, you're not sniffing the playoff this year in that conference because you're not winning it, first off. And you think you're getting an at-large bid over some of these other teams at the top? If you're struggling to beat ACC teams, like, there is a benefit to being in a conference where you can run away with it. Miami has the ability to do that this
Florida
year.
State, Clemson played in neutral and home environments, lost by a combined 62-16. That one from Matt Norlander. And everybody's pointing out the lawsuits and the Herb Street stuff. You're not wrong. They're not trying to get out of the ACC because of the conference.
No, they want more money.
They want
they
money,
want more money.
That's the stupid thing of all of this is this is money. It's not even like, oh, we're bigger and badder and we don't want to have to ever play these teams. I think if they could stay and make good money, they would
for sure. I know it's about financials, but sometimes be careful what you wish for is my warning.
Sure. And I think there's a lot of that. I think we're going to go through that with a lot of programs in college football in the next couple of years of like, be careful what you wish for because it might not always go how you think it's going to go. And yeah, money is nice, but sometimes it's like, where's your better ability to compete? Florida State's definitely in the ACC. I wouldn't say right now it's in the SEC.
No, they can't beat Boston College or Georgia Tech. If you can't beat Boston College and Georgia Tech, you're not beating Bama, Clemson.
Imagine them going to Ole Miss, who dropped 76 points this week, and my God, Lane
Texas
would just roll them, and he just never let it stop.
Yeah, you're not beating Alabama. You're not beating any of those teams.
So I think your point on Cam Ward and Morrow, if they have a hiccup, or even 2. It doesn't matter because if they win this garbage conference,
They're in the playoff, man.
They get a home play. Well, it'd be in a neutral site because they get a bye, but they get a bye and they'd be the home team in that. So a nice debut for Cam Ward and company. I was kicking myself I didn't spread the line on that game because I did like them, but
I loved the under in that game, and then Florida gave up 41 points on their own, and the over-under was 54. They basically covered. And then at the end of the game, they had the recruits lined up by the Miami tunnel.
They did.
And the Miami players are walking by their recruits.
Don't go here.
Telling them to not go there. Like, you can't get off the mat from that. Fire everybody. It's like when you get too many spiders in your house. Burn the damn thing down and rebuild it. That's what Florida's got to do.
I'm rooting for the Pac-12 players. Not so much a big Mario guy, but I will tell you, it's nice to have the U back.
Good for the sport.
It's good for the sport. I know it's a cliche radio thing to say and do, but it's true. It's some of these programs, it's nice when they matter, and it sucks when they don't, because it's like, I grew up watching the U, and the U mattered a great deal. They were the Georgia of my life for a few years.
They were the dominant team.
And to watch them become just a disaster was depressing almost, to see them on my TV losing to God knows who. And to see them do this now and kind of be back, and they got a little bit of that swagger. They're doing the chomp and then the thumbs down. And it was kind of like, it's nice. It's nice watching the U be good.
It was like a turn back the clock weekend, because I thought the 2 biggest winners of the weekend were Miami because they won on the road at Florida, and Notre Dame for winning on the road at Texas A&M. It was, 1987 here? Notre Dame and Miami basically, got a red carpet down to the playoffs. This is great, man.
Let's talk a little bit more college football. We'll get to Oregon and what happened against Idaho this weekend as they won that game by just 10 points. Were they 47 or 43? I saw 2 different numbers flown out there.
It was 44.5 when we did Sprague in the line. I think it got
It got up to 48 almost by kickoff.
48 at kick.
It's a lot of points.
A lot of points.
So we'll get to that, some other college football dealings next on The Fan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
What happened in Eugene this weekend? We'll get to that coming up at the top of the hour. We will discuss my Beavs, who left me shaking in my boots at the half, and then settled things down in the second.
Run the ball, 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 and deep shot, and run the ball, 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 run the ball.
Why do anything else?
That's right, it worked.
When you can do it, you want to do it.
I wish we could do it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the joke.
We can't do it.
So we'll get to all that coming up in the top of the hour here. We're just talking college football. It's nice to have it back in our lives.
Yes, it is.
I was also reminded, because there's a lot of blowouts, a lot of teams playing, lesser opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Arch Manning, big deal. Arch Manning got his first touchdown.
He did. He got in. 52. Jay Norvell was still hiding his signs down 52-0. He was walking around with a big blanket around. They were holding the big thing up. Like, dude, nobody's stealing anything, buddy. You're down 52-0 in the fourth quarter.
Did you see who Arch Manning's first touchdown
Just yell,
pass
we're
was?
gonna throw it. It's not gonna get completed.
Trivia game. Who was Arch Manning's first touchdown pass to? Don't look it up. Just guess.
I didn't see the highlight. I don't even know.
Silas Bolden.
Silas Bolden, number one. Go
Bees. It wasn't even technically should be a pass in my opinion. It was more of a pitch, and Bolden caught it and then dove into the end zone.
Kind of a jet sweep, if you will, kind of thing.
Yeah. But we had some good games. We had some games to get up for. Exciting. Penn State routed West Virginia.
They did. Another team that put people on notice who has a very manageable schedule the rest of the way. I spragged the line on that game. I was wrong. I thought that's a tough environment to go play in. When they scored that touchdown with like 20 seconds left in the first half, they went like 80 yards in 3 plays to extend the lead. You're like, oh, this maybe a bit of a difference in that passing game. And go look, man, they don't play Oregon this year. They don't play Ohio State this year. I don't know if playing Oregon's a benefit anymore. But you don't play Oregon. You don't play Ohio State.
You are in a mental pretzel today.
No, I think it's Oregon and Michigan that they don't play. And then they get Ohio State at home.
Okay.
And you got USC on the schedule. It was a challenging game. USC looked good Sunday night. But it seems like they have a more manageable run this year where it's not Michigan and Ohio State that they have to get through.
Notre Dame with a big road win. All the talk of the offensive line being 6 starts collectively, young, going on the road. And Mike Elko bested by his former quarterback, Riley Leonard, who ran a ton and took a ton of hits. But
yes, he did.
They got a key stop. They were out physicaling Texas A&M at the line of scrimmage, and their running back was a beast, and they shored up a road win. Hostile environment, big pivotal game, prime time. And Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame get a huge road win at A&M this weekend.
It's a funny thing about reacting to week 1 wins, right? Like Notre Dame and Miami, to me, and Penn State to a certain extent, are the 3 teams were kind of circling like, oh, all right, notable games coming in, statement wins for all 3 programs.
Yeah.
The funny reaction to it is we don't know yet how these wins are going to be viewed in the lens of an entire season.
That's why I love week 1 overreactions.
That's why it's so funny. Like Texas A&M came in, they're still a very talented roster. Connor Wegman was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. Like that's a highly touted dude. He was 12 of 30 for 100 yards and 2 picks.
I didn't want to be mean to you, but I watched
terrible.
And I heard your voice like, Connor Wegman's good when
he's supposed to be good.
What happened to this guy?
And like last year before he got hurt, they sucked, but he at least played. He wasn't their issue. Like for him to be 12 of 30 in his first game, 100 passing yards in your home stadium.
Could also be a credit to Notre Dame's defense.
Notre Dame's got a good defense. They ain't the 1985 Bears, man. Like you have 170 yards. Is that too much to ask for? A 50% completion percentage? So that's the hard part about analyzing any of these is that West Virginia could suck, and we look back and we're like, hey, remember when we freaked out that Penn State won that game? Or Florida could go 2-10. We all laugh like, hey, we freaked out when Miami won that game. They won 2 games all year. So it's hard to judge when you come out of week 1. But for Notre Dame, because of their schedule, that was a must-win game for them. And they now have the freedom and the ability to do whatever they want to do the rest of the year. And guess what? Welcome to the college football playoff.
I know it's week 1, so overreactions are kind of our specialty here in sports radio, but I took a lot of delight watching a game Sunday night, and I just went, oh, Lincoln Riley can still coach a little bit.
He still got it.
The demise might have been a little premature.
We're doing week 1 overreaction. Lincoln Riley back, huh? Defense has figured it out.
I mean, LSU is. I don't think they're going to be bad.
The defensive coordinator they brought in because
Anton Lynn.
They could tackle. That was the most
defensively
noticeable
they
thing
looked night
last
and day.
year was how awful they were at tackling.
Did you hear? I think it was Mason Cobb in the post game basic, or no, it was Achille Arnold. It was a former Beav. It was a tough weekend for me.
Yeah.
But they were talking about the defense and just like what he did and implemented to make them stronger and a more physical group versus last year. It was like a little too lax. And so like when they went to tackle, guess what they couldn't do very well was tackle. I don't know what LSU is going to be, to your earlier point on these teams. Like they might be 7-5 this year. They might be 8-4.
Fine. Their defense looked better. Garrett Nussmeier had a good game. Like LSU looked like a good team.
And I thought his coach, and we have a lot of audio to get to today, but his coach I thought was a little like, their quarterback outplayed our quarterback, and Miller Moss was great.
Moss
I thought
was great.
Nussmeier was good.
Nussmeier didn't really do anything, other than the pick but that was at the end of the game.
But that's desperation. You're trying to just get it down as quick as you can.
Yeah.
I just thought overall for USC, that's a monster win. That's not a game they've won in a long time. And their quarterback, I'm not saying he's Caleb for sure, but
no, he played really well.
He's really good in that system. They've got weapons. USC, one of those, maybe it's a sleeper team in the Big Ten that we didn't give enough attention to going into the year.
I think the only difference between them and the other teams that we're talking about is how challenging their schedule is compared to a Miami, a Penn State, a Notre Dame, if you will, even though they do get Notre Dame at home at the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 2 weeks away from going on the road to Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And that's just I don't know how good Michigan's going to be.
Weird this weekend.
They look very weird. A lot of teams look weird in week one. That's just you just won a big game.
Sure.
Now you get a cakewalk, or should be a cakewalk, against Utah State. And then you get a bye week, and then you go on the road to Michigan. And then you have to play Penn State 2 weeks after that. Then you have to go to Seattle, who knows how to run the football still. You get Notre Dame at the end of the season. Nebraska looked really good this weekend. You get them at home. They just have a much more challenging schedule. If I am a USC fan, though, on the early returns, you have to be thrilled. We all knew the offense was going to be fine. They just need a defense with a pulse. Just show me you have the ability to be a top 40 defense in the country, and you can win a lot more games. Caleb Williams had to have been pounding the table like Brian Kelly this weekend. Of how many times did I have to win games 52-49, and you win the first game without me 27-20 against a pretty good offensive team? Where the hell was this when I was there? We could have won a national championship.
Loaded second hour of the program. What happened this weekend in Eugene, Idaho, pressing Oregon in a non-conference tilt to start the season? We'll kick off the second hour with that. Hour number 2, Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
E2 Portland.
Everything is better when they do it.
I'm not disappointed.
1080 The Fan, an Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the first in-season AP Top 25 college football poll will be released a little later this morning. Expected to see Oregon fall a little bit after a closer than expected win over Idaho, but not as far as Florida State. The Seminoles ranked 10th preseason, likely not to be in the poll after an 0-2 start. They lose to Boston College Monday night 28-13, gave up 263 yards on the ground to the Eagles. Sunday was the deadline for the remaining Pac-12 two schools in the Mountain West to extend their football scheduling arrangement into the 2025 season. However, no deal was struck. The two sides reportedly far apart on terms. Oregon State and Washington State wanting to keep their options open. Opening week of the NFL regular season takes the spotlight. A couple of teams scrambling to get key holdout players back at practice, and it looks like the 49ers and Pro Bowl left tackle Trent Williams have reached agreement on a deal. Tweets and reports from Williams' agent indicate they are finalizing the details. In Cincinnati, though, the Bengals are no closer to satisfying top wide receiver Jamar Chase. He was at practice again, but in street clothes, not participating in drills. We'll see if he is ready to go week one. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has new shirts from the fan shows and hosts you love. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com.
Who wants cream? Nobody? Okay, no cream.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
Guys, we've made a great effort so far. Let's just keep it up.
That's right! We can't have anyone freak out there, okay? We've got to keep our composure. We've got too far. There's too much to lose. It's not keep our composure.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
A lot of pressure. You gotta rise above it. You gotta harness into good energy, block out the bad. Harness, energy, block, bad. Feel the flow, happy. Feel it. It's circular.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2, Dirt and Sprague here on 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, and, of course, YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Be on alert for something that is back in our lives during Ducks football season. A big secret, if you will.
What was the score? I don't know.
I don't know. I know the score. It's 24-14.
Oh, that's right. It's 24-14. Okay,
what are we
gotcha.
talking about here?
Gotcha.
If you missed any of the first hour, if you miss any of the hours and you just catch the show late, you listen to the podcast, we understand. We basically are a podcast for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You can always catch it 1080thefan.com or download it anywhere you get your podcast. A lot of college football talk in hour 1, including Dirt saying he had a nightmare this weekend.
Yeah, I did.
And we'll get to that nightmare here in just a second. We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the program. We will talk about my Beavs pulling away and stomping Idaho State in the second half of that game, but leaving me with a heart attack in the first half.
Suck it, Bengals.
Yeah, weird name, Idaho State.
Very weird name.
Bengals?
Vandals fits. I don't even, what is a Vandal? I don't know what is, do we know what a Vandal
is? But it sounds right.
Idaho Vandals. You're like, all right,
it
Idaho
goes
State
well.
Bengals?
Yeah.
The Bengals?
How about the Bungles?
I mean, you're in Idaho.
The
There's
Bundles.
what are we doing here? You know, come on.
The potato crates.
Yeah.
We apologize to Idaho in the first hour, the state collectively. We overlooked week 1, which was a mistake on both our ends. But we will get to the Beavs as well. We got a lot of coaches' audio and audio in general to get to from the weekend of college football.
Yeah, there was one fan who had a meltdown in front of a Denny's this weekend, and we need to play that sound. And we will play that for you in about an hour.
We will play it. I like it. I just also, how much do these people practice doing these before they do them?
Yeah, or is it just off the cuff? Because I'm always
It's
impressed
not
if
off
you
the
can
cuff.
pull it off the cuff.
It's not off the cuff.
It's a hell of a rant.
Also, how weird do these people look practicing this in front of a Denny's?
Why did we lose? Why is that guy yelling at himself over there, man?
Start again.
How many things do you actually question in front of a Denny's?
I don't. Well, I'm not anti-Denny's here. I'm a breakfast guy.
Look,
you are. You're
3
pro
a.m.,
Denny's. We
You're
get it. Come on.
starving from whatever kept you up till 3 a.m.
Good spot to go
the
to.
Grand Slam that you could do worse.
Meat Lover's Skillet. You ever
There
had
you
one
go.
of those?
Little
My
moons
God.
over my hammy.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, moving my hammy right now.
I was that guy in front of like a burrito boy at halftime at Eugene. What is happening right now?
Yeah.
Yelling
Those
at my phone.
establishments where if you see something odd, you question it. I don't think at Denny's
No.
parking lot I'm questioning too many things.
I don't think so.
Well, I did see something odd. It was Saturday where Oregon played Idaho, speaking of odd, and the Ducks offensive line could not move the defensive front of Idaho.
Not
and
good, Bob.
found themselves in a dogfight late into the fourth quarter. It's one thing to say maybe second quarter, okay, slow start. That's how Ohio State was slow this weekend.
Yeah, their score was 17-6 at the half against Akron.
Their passing game looked questionable at best. Like, there's a lot of takeaways from week 1, whether it's rust or worry. I don't know where fans for different programs lie. I would say locally, Duck fan is somewhere between panicking and worried, and they're just in between that space. They get a late touchdown, and they end up separating themselves. They get the win.
Easy win, comfortable.
And they knock Idaho's quarterback out for the next few weeks because he broke his collarbone, Jack Lane. But Idaho giving a scare into the Ducks, who were 40-plus point favorites. I did not see that coming.
Look, I'm just glad it only took 1 week, and now I can get back to the nobody's giving us a chance, man. Everybody's counting us out. We barely beat Idaho. Where all those national championship picks going to go after 1 week of the season?
You're ranked number 3 according to Greg McMurphy.
Wait until the AP poll comes out later, because they will tumble in the AP poll, and rightfully so. We usually will do the dirty poll on Tuesdays, but we have too much to get to today, so I'll hold the dirty poll for tomorrow.
It's a weird Tuesday, Monday show.
It's a very weird, we got too much, and there's not enough time to get to all of it. I would label the feeling right now as it's like there's a massive panic button that you could press. The panic button is surrounded by glass, and we have broken the glass. Like the glass, we took a crowbar, glass has been shattered, and now the button is ready to be pressed at any moment. Like the hand is on top, it's just hovering. It's like
a little smoke, and we're breaking the glass.
We're playing Family Feud. The hand's just hovering over the button. I know the answer, and I'm waiting to see what happens this weekend against Boise State. My mind is a jumbled mess right now, buddy. It's a jumbled mess. They barely beat Idaho. If anybody else barely beats, like if Ohio State beat Akron this weekend, 24-14,
if that was the same game,
I would be making so much fun of them today. At least we're not the Huskies. We don't actually lose to FCS teams, so we still have that going for us. We just struggle with them from time to time.
Hey, don't badmouth the Huskies.
People don't forget.
They took care of their business this weekend.
That was a little bit of a dogfight in the first half, too. Yeah. But that, to your point, if you tell me that score's 14-0 at the half, like, all right, I'm doing a bit of a, that's weird. But what do I assume is going to happen in the second half? The same thing that happens in almost all of these games, that you have the size, strength, depth that the other programs don't. You run away with it in the second half, run the ball a ton, and the final score is 42-6, and you're like, all right, whatever. When that game was 14-0 at the half, that's exactly how I thought the second half was going to go. And then you come out and you basically go 3-and-out on your first drive. Then you have these weird fourth down calls where you're faking punts, and then your fullback is tripping up your pulling guard, and you can't pick up a first down. Yeah. Like, what the hell is that? I'm stuck somewhere between the legitimate worry about an issue that I have brought up for weeks. We literally did a segment a week ago in which I asked the question on our show, should I be concerned about Oregon's offensive line? They refuse to name a starting center, and their guard who they brought in to plug that big hole is not going to be playing. Now, it sounds like he might be back this week against Boise, so that's a good place to start at least in improving. But I have been raising this concern. We literally did go look at the podcast from last Tuesday. I did this segment. I'm a little concerned about Oregon's offensive line. Did I think it was going to rear its ugly head in week 1 against the mighty Vandals of Idaho? No, not in a million years did I see that coming. So I think there's a balance of, if you're struggling to move the line of scrimmage against Idaho, Bedford maybe improves it slightly, but that's an issue, dude. And if that's an issue, it's going to be a glaring problem for them all season. While also, I think the more optimistic take is that this is a team with, 1, a lot of new faces, and 2, there's a reason that the phrase rat poison is out there. Like, they have been told all offseason, you're going to win a national championship, you're one of the best programs. Dan Lanning has been more talked about arguably than any other coach in the sport this offseason. Like, they have had a spotlight on them and have had smoke blown up their butt like they have never had before. Yeah. And I think the ultimate optimistic take is that if Oregon ends up being the team that many people thought they could be at the start of the year, this could serve as you dumbass. You can't just show up and beat everybody just by showing up and playing the game. You got to bring it, and we'll see if they do it this Saturday.
Well, but also the coach brought on some of that smoke.
Oh, he definitely did.
Show up to Big Ten Media Day, and you talk about we're the team out west, and we're this, and we're that, and you got a floating duck in a river. Like, those, it's not that Oregon didn't bring any of that onto themselves. They certainly know how to market their program and get people to talk about them. And so it's kind of this weird combination where I know you, who have been rooting for this team for a very long time, there's a little bit of uncomfortableness when it's like, hey, Oregon's the best team, and you're like, can we but also they kind of throw it out there in people's faces. Do. Big Ten fans were probably taking a lot of delight in watching them struggle against Idaho.
Yeah.
I'm not versed enough to really explain what I saw. I just tell you, watching it didn't make any sense to my brain.
No.
The talent gap between what that offensive line is, whether they're new or not, and Idaho, it should not have been what it was.
No.
And now I know that, sack yardage and all that's accumulated into this, but a 2.9 yard average it's it's pretty awful.
Jordan James had a good game.
Jordan
Noah
James
Whittington
was their thing, and whenever Noah Whittington got in, for some reason, it just crumbled for him. And so we'll see how much do they rely on Jordan more versus splitting those reps up the way they did this week. The offensive line health is obvious concern. Also, this is not him. This was an offensive line problem. Their defense was just fine.
Mm-hmm.
They got tricked on one trick play, didn't execute it properly, and they got burned for it. Largely, their defense was not an issue for them.
And the offense kept handing them short fields because they kept failing 4th downs in the third quarter.
Yeah, and that was yes. That was the other thing, was a little bit of a wonky play calling thing. The offensive line clearly had their problems. His numbers don't show it per se, but there is a different vibe with Gabriel than there was Nick's. And Nick's got this dinking and the dunking label last year, and it became like an argument with people. A lot of dinking and dunking. Now,
a ton.
I think some of that comes from not having a run game, so it's like, we got to get 4 yards here or 3 yards here, help ourselves for second and mid or whatever. But I'm kind of curious to see going forward, when your explosive plays are taking away, is this a passing attack if your run game doesn't get a whole lot better? And that's a big if. Is that something that's going to beat elite teams, good teams that are bordering on elite, the Michigans of the world, where I don't know where to place them yet? That's what I'm wondering. And he's shorter, so it's like it feels like he's holding on to the ball a little bit longer. It's just 1 week, but the offensive line having their problems paired with what I saw and his numbers, they look good on paper. It's interesting going forward, evaluating and talking about Oregon going into Boise State.
Yeah, there's, it's funny, in both reactions. One, I don't know if there's ever been a game that was one that felt more like a loss than this weekend. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a game where they won the game, but it feels like a loss. We're in mourning today. Somebody passed away this weekend. That's the feeling.
Let me interrupt you quickly, because I watched Dan Lanning's post game, and it was short, and nothing wanted to be answered by him.
Oh, he was not in a good mood.
The only thing I had taken away was he was asked about the post-game message to his team, and this was his response.
Coach, I'm just wondering, what did you tell the team in the locker room after the win?
Well, that's for the team. That's for the team in the locker room. If we wanted you guys there, we would have everybody else in there. There's areas for improvement for us right now. You celebrate wins in our program when that happens, but there's some areas for improvement.
And his face looked like, I have the power of 1,000 suns right now. I'm pissed.
I'm going to go wring somebody's neck, dude. He was not happy after
Imagine that post-game talk was not fun.
And rightfully so. But it felt like it was a win that felt like a loss, and I felt like Gabriel was somewhat similar, where his numbers, if you didn't watch the game, you look at the box score, he's 41 of 49, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That if you thought that was an elite performance, you didn't really watch the game. Now, it wasn't his fault. Their offensive line was the primary concern. He was sacked a couple of times, one of them a strip sack. Like, you look at the end of that first half, they had a play they were up 7-0 at the time. They had a play to get all the way down to the 10, like a 20-yard completion, get down to the 10-yard line, 1st and goal from the 10, early in the second quarter, I believe, or late in the first quarter. And instead of that completion standing and having a 1st and 10 at the 10, 1st and goal at the 10, they called Johnny Cornelius for a formation issue because he was lined up too far off the line of scrimmage at right tackle. I've never seen that called in my years of watching college football. So you went from 1st and 10 from the 10 to 1st and 15. Then they called a tunnel screen that lost 6 yards. And you just went from an easy touchdown drive to all of a sudden it was 2nd and 23 from like the 38-yard line. And then you have to settle for a field goal.
Yeah.
And then you get down there again. Okay, it's 14-0. You score on your next drive. The next drive before half, they're driving out 1st and 10 from the 22-yard line. They're going in to score to make it 21-0. All right, it's not great. You should be up by more than that, but 21-0 at the half's nothing to, that's okay. It's serviceable.
You're breathing a sigh like, now we blow them out.
It'll be okay. We'll get the ball to start the second half.
Yeah.
And Dylan Gabriel has a blindside sack, and he fumbles the ball, and you turn it over. And it's like, that game was legitimately 3 plays away from being 28-0 at the half, and it's funny how different we would be talking about it, although the offensive line would still be the primary concern. Dylan Gabriel, it was a ton of underneath stuff. I don't know how much of that is just what he's comfortable with at this point, how much of that is what they were calling. They really only took one deep shot in the game, and it happened on the first drive of the game. They took a deep shot to Evan Stewart. He overthrew him by about a half a yard, and he almost caught it in the end zone. They still scored on that drive. But outside of that, he had one corner out. He hit Kyle Casper on, who made a nice catch on a 3rd down. That was about a 20-yard completion, but there was nothing else that was even attempted that was over 50. It was just slant, hitch, out, slant, hit, swing pass, or here, dump it down to my safety valve, the back, leaving the backfield. Nothing downfield. And so, again, it's hard to get a read in week one. How much of that is what is going to be Gabriel, what he does all year? How much of that is Will Stein saying, dude, we're playing Idaho. We're not taking a bunch of shots down the field.
Right.
It's just really hard to get a read because you did not – watching that game, it was hard to compute with your brain what your eyes were seeing.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. More on this, Dan Lanning talking about the offensive line and something you brought up there on the explosive play thing. So we'll have a little bit more on this here from Dan Lanning coming up next. Your thoughts are welcome at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. How did you feel about what you saw from the Oregon Ducks in week one against Idaho? We'll talk more about it next on The Fan.
Business. Ducks Game Day Secret Score.
Strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with
So Jack Wagner on 3rd down and 10 at the Idaho 13-yard line with a minute 55 remaining now. Wagner back to throw. Going to go deep down the right side, and that ball might be picked. It is Nico Reed spinning around backwards, reaching out and grabbing the ball. That's an interception, Nico Reed.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Jerry Allen on the call there, talking Oregon barely beating Idaho this weekend in Eugene. We'll get to some Dan Lanning audio. Should be noted, their Week 2 opponent is the Boise State Broncos.
Bring it on, State of Idaho. We're not scared of you.
Over in Boise State matchups, but interesting note from the Boise State game, in case you didn't see it, they beat Georgia Southern, the Fightin' Clay Heltons, 56-45.
How about that for a shootout?
And Georgia Southern ran for 139 yards with a 4.0 average against Boise State.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
But maybe Georgia Southern's
really good,
better than Idaho.
Maybe.
So that's true. That you could be looped. You could be screwed there. I don't know. Look, it's interesting, man. I think when you come in with a lot of hype and a lot of excitement about a season, I thought you could see it from Dan Lanning's reactions in the moment on the sideline, and then in the postgame of just, all right. Not quite what I expected from this unit, given the amount of talk we've had about this team.
It was embarrassing, man. You were in a dogfight with Idaho in the fourth. It's embarrassing. That's the only way to label it. It's inexcusable. It's embarrassing. There's zero sugarcoating a positive spin that could go on a game like that, man. I was looking up at the Jumbotron late in the second quarter. I think the game was 14-0 at the time. It was maybe right after the Gabriel fumble. And looking up, and it's like 14-0, and the total yardage was like Oregon 290 to Idaho's 63. And they had like 2 total first downs at that point. And I just am like trying to wrap my head around, like, how is this? What is going on? How is this 14-0? This doesn't make any sense. And you look at it even in the end, like Oregon outgained them by nearly 300 yards of total offense. Idaho was like 2 of 12 on third down. Like every metric other than the ability to run the football on yards per carry pointed to this is a bloodbath.
Yes.
And it wasn't because you made so many incredibly stupid, boneheaded mistakes. And I think that was the one area outside of offensive line play that you hope you can just chalk up to a week 1 thing and it gets cleaned up, but the procedural penalties, the not lining up correctly, the strip sack fumble on a first down, that if Gabriel just holds onto that ball, maybe you still score on that drive. He just gets sacked. That was on first down. Now it's 2nd and 17. Maybe you still score and it's 21-0. Like they did so many things to hurt themselves, and it felt like as the game went on, they understood the amount of pressure that was building of like, why aren't we executing? Why can't we do this? Why can't we run the ball? And the pressure built. They got tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter as the game went on, including their coach, who was going for it on all sorts of crazy 4th downs in his own territory because they were only up 14-0 on Idaho.
Well, and you were in the building, so you'd be better versed on describing it, but I can tell you just watching through the television, when they scored on the trick play to cut it within 14-7.
After the second 4th down failure.
It was a little bit of like,
what?
And I saw multiple people pointing this out on social media of just like the fact that Duck Fan even thought they'd be in their seat at this point in the fourth quarter was probably wild. Of like, no, I thought I'd be in a car trying to get out of here going home.
Let's beat the Corvallis traffic home because their game started an hour earlier. Let's hit the road.
And so it just, when you get in that spot, the players can sometimes feel that energy, and it's like, oh my God, is Idaho going to do this? A couple thoughts of the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. The O-line looks shook. Bedford should be back, which will help everyone get back to their position. Without a trick play, Oregon holds Idaho to 1 score. If Oregon doesn't look good against Boise State, and definitely Oregon State, I'm not reading what you wrote there, it might be time to get worried. Another one, all the other top-ranked teams destroyed their FCS opponents, 51-0, 49-0, 76-0. Oregon was embarrassing, barely eked out a win. They drank their own Kool-Aid for sure. And I highlight the opponent because defensively, we're not talking anything about Oregon. Oregon was fine defensively.
No, they were good.
Boise State is a running team, okay? They got Ashton Genty, and that kid went absolutely berserk. He had 6 touchdowns this past week. He had 13.4 average. They are a running team.
Yep.
Their quarterback threw for 280 and a touchdown, which is fine, but they are going to beat Oregon by running the football, and so you're not as concerned about that side for Oregon. It's going to be, you couldn't push Idaho around.
Yeah, can you push anybody else
Can
around?
you push Boise State around? And can you not make mistakes and get in your own way?
Yeah.
And that was the big thing. And so I certainly understand the thinking of go look at the other top-ranked teams and what they did against FCS opponents. I'm sorry, no disrespect. I don't care how good Idaho's been the last couple of years with Eck.
No.
This is not close in talent. So it is concerning that Oregon came out and played this way against that opponent.
It unquestionably is. Any Oregon fan who says it's not concerning is lying to themselves at this point. It's amazing to say it, but 5 days ago, you kind of felt like, all right, opening first few weeks of the schedule, you're not going to really learn much about the Oregon team.
We poo-pooed this game
Idaho,
entirely
Boise
last
State,
week.
then you get Oregon State,
Right.
and then you get UCLA or Michigan State. Like, all right, and then Ohio State comes to town. That's when we find out who Oregon is. There is an exponentially higher amount of interest in the Oregon-Boise State game now than there was 5 days ago. If Oregon comes out, wins that game, offensive line looks fine, Bedford's back, they can run the football, they win the game by 21 and cover the spread, you're going to say, okay, this is a good team. They just had, for whatever reason, a weird hiccup. If these things linger, I mean, it's just, it's what's the highest DEFCON you can go to? That's where you're at. If your offensive line, again, struggles to create push, Georgia Southern ran the ball pretty efficiently, as we pointed out with the numbers from their game against Boise this weekend. Like, there's no excuse to have the same problems linger from week 1 to week 2. It's one of the main calling cards under Lanning, I will say, when they've had these weird clunker games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think of the Texas Tech game in week 2. They probably should have lost that game early in the season last year. And it's like, they eke it out late. You get the pick 6, you seal it, and then they didn't have a close game until, other than the 2 Washington games, the rest of the year. That was it. They blew everybody out by an average margin of almost 30 points per game. So they've had their kind of close calls, and they've been able to bounce back from them. And you're going to find out a ton about this football team in week 2, man.
My only rebuttal is like, yeah, you're right, and that's Texas Tech. This is Idaho.
This is Idaho at home.
This is a huge opportunity for them because Boise's not going to come over as a pushover. They're coming in. They're feeling confident about themselves. They're running attack, and you watch the film. Their defensive line probably feels great right now. Like, if Idaho can do that, why can't we do that? A couple more thoughts, and then I want to play some landing audio. Oregon took the day off. They slept through their victory. It happens to young men. Deal says, I think I just yelled, "It's Idaho!" at one point, which is a very fair thing to be yelling.
It's definitely yelled.
Somebody else says, I left the game at the end of the third because I told the wife and kids I'd be home earlier. Never thought I'd be stressed listening to the fourth quarter on the drive home.
That's one of those things, if you lose, I don't want to be there to witness that. If you I've been getting out either way. I don't want to see the fourth quarter, and if we lose, I don't want to be the witness to this.
Here's a couple thoughts. Dan Lanning on his Monday presser talked about the offensive line. So here's what his film session revealed about his offensive line's play.
You're winning in a lot of categories. The categories we really didn't win on were situational football and the way we ran the ball, right? So when we had the ball twice before before half, we didn't score. Had an opportunity to kick, didn't make the kick. Didn't score in the middle 8. Generally that's been something that we've done, well. That offensively, defensively gave us some explosive plays, even on limited possessions. But we had 87 snaps. They had 48 snaps, right? So you had the ball a lot more, but we weren't creating the explosives that turn into, positives. So finding ways to do that. A lot of that comes with, effort to the ball, finishing, proper mechanics, but you look at it and you study those pieces. How do we create those things? And then you attack it and you build your practice plan around that as well. A lot of the things we saw that were places for us to improve, those are exact things that we worked on today.
And I just think, one, that's very fair. 2, week ones can be weird for a lot of programs. It took Michigan till deep into the fourth with Fresno State to separate and win by 20.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the other side of that coin, and this is what's fun about this sport and why I think I love it so much, is our overreactions or reactions to these. The other side is that was still Idaho, and I don't know if I'm encouraged or where I'm at if I'm a fan of Oregon, hearing my coach basically talk about the adjustments they still need to make on the offensive line after playing Idaho.
Yes, after week 1 against an FCS opponent.
Yes.
That's an incredibly alarming thing. And boy, oh boy, buddy, you better clean that stuff up week 2, man. You better. We are in a glass case of emotions right now.
Dirt might be pressing a panic button.
It's hands right there. It's just hovering.
Shaking right
it's
over
hovering
it.
right over that button, and I am ready to mash, depending on how that first quarter goes.
We'll get back into Oregon coming up in the final hour. Bill Oram of the Oregonian is going to join us at 8:15. He wrote about the Ducks and the Beavs week 1 games. And speaking of my Beavs, we'll pause on the Ducks, get back into that. Let's talk about Oregon State. Talk about panic buttons. I was ready to hit a panic button in the first quarter and a half of that first half. I was sitting there going, oh, I've seen this story before. And then they settled things. Let's talk about Oregon State's 1-0 start to their season, an important update with their scheduling going forward as well. So we'll talk a little Beavs coming up next on The Fan.
Now, Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, college football fans expecting quite a bit of jumbling when the first in-season AP Top 25 poll will be released later this morning. What is the concern in Eugene after a closer than expected win against Idaho Saturday? But a collective panic going on in Tallahassee. Seminoles were ranked 10th preseason and started the season 0-2 after losing at home to Boston College Monday night. 28-13, gave up 263 yards on the ground to the Eagles. Sunday was the deadline for the remaining Pac-12 schools in the Mountain West to extend their football scheduling agreement into the 2025 season. No deal was struck. The two sides were reportedly far apart on terms, and that means without more teams coming to join Oregon State and Washington State, they could be without 6 or 7 games right now. Opening week of the NFL regular season will take the spotlight this week. It looks like Trent Williams and the San Francisco 49ers have agreed to a deal. Numerous reports this morning out of San Francisco say they are finalizing the last details. That could be signed by the end of the day. For Kansas City, that opens the season in 2 days, they'll be without running back Clyde Edward-Helaire. He has been placed on the physically unable to perform list, keeping him out for at least the first 4 games. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 99.5 FM HD2.
Northbrook, Illinois.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Shout out to John, who won the Game Day Secret Score. Where was John from? Did he give us a town, an area, a location?
I did not retrieve
ask?
that bit
Okay.
of information.
Well, good for you, John. You
John
were the
from
winner.
the radio universe.
John from the world.
Yeah.
Man of the people.
I'm John from the world.
From the world. 83.7 was your secret score number. That was Dylan Gabriel's completion percentage this weekend. And make sure you listen to the postgame show every Saturday night, sometimes Friday nights, and you have a chance to win the secret score on our show.
Sometimes Sunday morning.
Sometime Sunday morning, this week, Sunday morning. And you'll have a chance usually on Mondays, but no show yesterday, so we did it this week on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I am close. My hand is hovering over the Oregon panic button. It's right there. I'm ready to strike at any moment. Bad first quarter. We're mashing that thing like crazy Saturday night.
Yeah.
Beaver fan chiming in at the Vancouver Ford text line, trying to one-up me in my panic. How dare you? I am mashing the panic button. One-dimensional offense, very limited quarterback play. That first half felt like they thought they could just line up and beat Idaho State.
Yeah.
They couldn't. It's alarming. They had to start opening up the offense a lot more than I think they wanted to or thought they would need to against that level of opponent. I obviously was down at the game. This is your ultimate sign of karma. I was in Eugene talking to an Oregon staffer on the sideline. This was in the first quarter when Oregon had scored on their opening drive, 7-0, and it's like, oh, here we go. Okay, Idaho can't get a first down. It's going to be a bloodbath. Everybody's leaving at the end of the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
That clearly did not end up happening. And I remember joking with somebody on the sideline because I was just checking my score, seeing what's going on. All right, this is... And at that time, they were losing 9-7. And I made a joke to a staffer down. Look at that. Oregon State's losing to an FCS team. And then just ultimate karma right back in my face. But pull away late. The Beavs get the win. 1-0. 38-15 was the final.
Yeah.
My Beaver brethren, how do we feel?
Well, first of all, let's go back to our Pac-12, our big PP,
Our
that
big
we're
PP
doing
picks.
every week.
Yeah.
Who covered? Washington State?
Washington State and Washington, I
Did
believe,
Washington
covered.
I think Washington
Washington
covered.
was a 27.5, and they won by
Okay.
32.
Yeah, it was
right?
38.
So the Washington schools handled
Washington-
business.
yeah.
Oregon schools not
Not
handling
so
business.
much.
The Beavs could have there at the end if they wanted to.
Maybe. I just think that score is pretty lined up with what the game was.
Yeah.
Like dead right there. I agree with some of that listener's point. 9-7, I'm watching this. They've snapped a punt out of the end zone.
Yeah.
For a safety.
They
and-
cannot throw the football to save anything. Jam Griffin fumbles on what seems to be an
Opening drive of
opening
the game,
drive
yeah.
after they stop Idaho State. And, I'm just thinking, oh, my God, I've seen this story in
Yeah.
Corvallis before. I've lived this multiple
Just
times.
settle down.
But there is a little truth to they didn't open it up so much, by the way. They had the one long pass play to David Wells Jr.
It's a beautiful throw.
McCoy was 9 of 10 for 114. They didn't really open. They just ran it, and they kept running it and running it and running it. And so Hankerson and Griffin had themselves a day.
I think they had 2 touchdown drives where they only called run plays.
But they were also incredibly lucky to start the game. Idaho State's first starting quarterback, they switched multiple times. They had 4 dudes play.
It made no sense.
He missed multiple throws that would have probably been
Wide,
touchdown passes for Idaho State early. Now they still end up going up 9-7. I was a little worried at halftime. I'm not going to lie to you. And I think anybody pretending that they weren't, I think it's ridiculous. Idaho State's an FCS team. Yes, you are kind of in this weird pseudo Mountain West thing, but you should still be separated pretty decently from them. And they were in a struggle bus. Thankfully, though, their defense locked down in the second half. They established their physicality up on the front with their run game, and they pulled away. And that third quarter separation paired with getting that final touchdown in the fourth quarter, you breathe a sigh of relief. A tale of two halves, if you will. But yeah, the first half, I was definitely a little concerned of they're giving up big chunk plays through the air. Secondary's kind of getting, thrown on a little bit here. They're moving the ball all right. Offensively, Idaho State was on the ground. I was a little worried in the first half, but the second half, they settled in and they handled their business.
Yeah, the Idaho State quarterback rotation made no sense. I thought that Tracy guy was playing pretty well. I was going back and watching it when I got home, and I ended up finishing it.
Yeah, I
on
thought he was
Sunday.
better than Cook. I didn't understand
why
that.
would we sit him?
Yeah.
And then that made no sense. I thought he had finally gotten into a rhythm. He had the touchdown pass. They had a little bit of momentum towards the end of the first half, and then they sat him. And the other guy really struggled. To your point earlier in the game, he did have a dude wide open on kind of a broken play that he just overshot by 2 or 3 yards that could have easily been an early touchdown for Idaho State. I just, it's hard to be too reactionary to week 1 games when there's so much newness, new staff. I know Bray was there last year, but new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new play callers, new quarterback, new stars here, new running backs, new
linemen,
new everything. So it's just hard to come out in week 1 and be like, why weren't you perfect? Why didn't you do this? Because I do think there was a bit of a let's feel our way through this game. We know we're going to be able to run the football. I think that's the only criticism that I have. But again, I don't know how much of that is by design. They just didn't really even try to do a lot in the passing game. And as the season goes on in some of your tougher matchups, you will have to be multidimensional offensively. I did really like the touchdown pass that McCoy threw. That was a beautiful ball. He had a couple other deep shots that he underthrew a little bit. One of them drew a pass interference. I also thought you saw kind of the up and down roller coaster that you're going to ride with him. He had a stretch, I want to say it was in the second quarter, back-to-back plays where the first one was like a design quarterback run. I can't remember if it was zone read or like a quarterback power, but he mass circled twice, had 2 spin moves,
spins.
Picks up like 7 more yards, and you're like, ooh, there's the quarterback run game that's going to be effective.
The double
spin
move.
And then the very next play, he's rolling out on a play-action pass, and he doesn't seemingly see a guy that's 2 feet in front of his face, and he just takes a sack. And it's like there's promise there and potential, but you're going to have to take your lumps. I thought your running back tandem looked really good. Again, it's Idaho State, but outside of the fumbles for Jam Griffin, both of them ran the ball really hard. Your pressure rate picked up in the second half. That was a little non-existent early in the game. But I just, for a lot of these teams in week 1, when there's so many new faces and new things, you won the game by 23 points. I understand Oregon State fan wants to see more that's texting in saying they're panicking. But we're going to find out a lot about this team in the next 3 weeks. Similar to what we just said with Oregon. San Diego State, tough for tests. On the road this week, they're a slight favorite.
Yep.
Then you get the Civil War. Then you get Purdue. Like, next 3 weeks will tell us a lot. They survived. They didn't blow a historic loss to Idaho State. They did exactly what they needed to do.
Well, it'd be interesting to see going forward, too, because the other part of Oregon State now, panicking, I'm not in panic mode for Oregon State, maybe the way you are right now with Oregon because of where they're at and who they played and all that. But I'm interested to see how they fare against the schedule, because Purdue and Oregon, we know Oregon talent-wise is substantially ahead of them, and Purdue, I think on paper, should be ahead of them from a talent gap standpoint, given what they lost in the portal. But the rest of that, like San Diego State won this weekend against a team I'd never heard of. You talk about Lindenwood. Texas A&M Commerce.
Never heard of it.
Had never heard of them.
Never heard of it.
But their running back, Marquez Cooper, he ran for 220-plus yards. So this is going to be a real ground attack by San Diego State. And I liked what I saw defensively from Oregon State in the second half. But I'm not going to lie. I was a little concerned with the first, despite it just being 9 points. I thought there was a lot more room for yardage and points for Idaho State, given it every time I watched a receiver catch it, they either caught a difficult pass or there was like 6 yard separation. And so that left me somewhat concerned of the secondary for Oregon State. But again, first game, 100 degrees outside for when these teams are playing, by the way.
Trent Bray, an absolute psycho, dude, in long sleeve black T-shirt, just facing the sun.
He looked like he was sunburned before the game had started.
His face was a strawberry by the end of the game, man.
I respect the tan.
Get this guy a bucket hat or something.
It's just, it's tougher, I think, to pin down where you should be panic-wise or whatever you want to describe it with Oregon State, given so much newness and then what their schedule is. Oregon doesn't have the wiggle room that Oregon State might have this year, where they can not have such a good passing attack, but grind out a good win against, I don't know, fill in the blank Nevada or whatever. Oregon plays that way against Ohio State. They're going to lose. And it's not really going to be much of a contest. And so I think that's the difference here of what we're talking about between panicking or just being a little concerned about some things because of their strength of schedule. But they're going to have a good test this week and go down to San Diego State, given what I saw from a little bit of the Aztecs Lions matchup.
I mean, speaking of that game, Texas A&M Commerce had a 6-3 lead on San Diego State at halftime in their stadium. They scored 3 points.
It was the third quarters and the fourth quarter.
They put 42 up on the board in the second half. So they pulled away slightly. So this isn't a game that you can't win by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a more formidable test, I would think, than Idaho State, and you're going on the road. And so you get off to a 2-0 start. You do want to see more from the passing game. Want to see those pressure rates pick up a little bit earlier, and they are going to be without a starting linebacker who got called for targeting. Chisholm, I believe, got a targeting call in the second half of that game, and he's going to be out the first half.
So my only other concern, aside from maybe some defensive questions, is the quarterback spot. And we talked about this when they named McCoy.
Do we like playing both guys?
Well, I certainly understand why you play both guys in that game. Jabari didn't really do anything for me to go, oh, he's got to be the starter. And then McCoy had the deep pass to Wells. But I'm still okay, when you play a team and they take the run game away, what are you?
That's going to be the game plan. 9 in the box and
exactly.
good luck running the ball.
And that's where I'm at is I don't really know where my confidence is on McCoy, and I know it's not going to be particularly high for Johnson given he has almost no experience playing.
How you feeling, Beaver fans? Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. You can also fire them away at the YouTube chat, which is as lively as it's always been today. It's great to have football back in our lives. We're all yelling at each other, rooting against each other's teams. I love it, dude. It's so good to have it back. We'll read some of your thoughts on Oregon State, and then speaking of quarterback play, one team in the Northwest had very good quarterback play this weekend. Did it open our eyes at all?
My God.
Considering the opponent, Jonah Coleman ran wild. We'll get to that. And Sprague had teased earlier a scheduling update on the future for Oregon State and Washington State. What do we make of this move? All of that is next on 1080 The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainhomeservices.com.
Mistakes that were obviously extremely costly, they capitalize on it. It comes down to me, and it comes down to me being able to prepare this team to go out there and play to the capabilities that I believe that they have.
Yeah, there's Mike Norvell, head coach of Florida State. They are just the third FBS team in the last 45 years to lose its first 2 games of the season as a double-digit favorite.
I respect the bit, man. They couldn't get into the college football playoff at 13-0, and so they said, you know what, we're going to boycott that. We're going to go 0-13. We're going to lose all of our games, 2 down, 10 to go.
And they may be benching DJ. He was non-committal to DJ last night in the postgame after their loss to Boston College. Who's stinking it up? Florida State this year, brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Make your home services delightful. Let the pros tackle the projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online, Three Mountains Home Services. That's threemountainhomeservices.com.
Let's go! Where Dirt and Sprague crunch the hot topics you want to hear.
What's the pressure? Don't sit here and act like there's no... We get nervous teeing off in front of a gallery on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
All right, Crunch Time, as always, brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online at crunch.com. Bill Oram coming up at 8:15. I have some fun with college football audio that I would like to enjoy together as a threesome coming up at the top of the hour.
Are we mail sacking? We didn't talk about this.
I don't think we're going to mail sack today.
Really?
I don't have enough time for the mail sack. When am I mail sacking today? I'm in football mode right now, buddy. All right? Football only. That's how we roll around here.
Sack in the sack.
A couple very quick things that we don't need to linger on.
Yeah.
I went to the Climate Pledge Arena Friday night for a WNBA action.
Yes, reaction, live updates. What do we feel?
Well, watching Sabrina make a shot from the floor was crazy, insane, because I was right behind that basket. And Climate Pledge is a 10 out of 10, and I'm telling you, when they get the Sonics back, go to a game.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Probably a little bit. Is it cheaper to get into a WNBA game or a Kraken game right now? I mean, the Kraken games are insane.
WNBA for sure.
Yeah.
Kraken's insane.
What do we think when the Sonics come back? What's the cheaper ticket? New Sonics or
WNBA?
Kraken?
No, it'll be Kraken because it's the same arena, but in an ice rink, you lose all those lower seats.
So there's more seats available for basketball.
So the upper deck for Sonics will be cheaper than the upper deck for Kraken.
I went to Key Arena and I was like, I don't
Key
recognize
Arena
this place.
sucked,
Well,
man.
This one doesn't.
Yeah.
This one doesn't whatsoever.
It's such a great facility.
It's amazing. It doesn't even feel like an arena when you walk in, and then you're just like, boom, arena, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
They did a great job with it.
Did you like the little stroll through grab and go concession?
I did.
Did you go to one of those?
I didn't enjoy the prices, but I enjoyed the grab and goes.
You gotta have the grab and go, man.
I love a good grab and go.
Huh. Well, we're also getting a WNBA team. That's on the notes for at some point this week, but you know, we just don't have enough time today.
Yeah.
Want to read a couple thoughts here. Beaver fans chiming in, and we got a massive mixed bag going on here.
Okay. Panic and not panic?
The Idaho State team, they won 3 games last year. It should have been an ass kicking from start to finish. Another one. I'm sorry, Beaver fans overreacting need to shut up. My goodness, they ran for 350 yards. Idaho State stayed in 3-high safety look the entire game. Gundy did what Gundy was supposed to do, ran them out of that look, and they never changed it. Multiple PFF offensive guys ranking high. You take that one fumble away at the 5-yard line and the stupid muff punt, and we're looking at a game completely different. And then back to the other side. Definitely worried myself a bit at the end of the first half. By the end of the game, it felt like the old Stanford teams, where a 2-touchdown win was a 4-touchdown win by anybody else, just because the O-line and the run game was just brutalizing the other team.
Yeah.
And then one more here, and you texted about this, so I was not watching live, obviously. I reacted to most of this later because I started watching it Saturday night and then finished it on Sunday.
Sure.
I went to the OSU game, and what was more disappointing than their play was the attendance and the energy at Reeser. Felt like a scrimmage atmosphere. I get it's an FCS opponent, but the energy was weird by halftime. It was a ghost town. I will make note of that for Eugene, at least. I have probably been to 16 opening games in my life now. We've been doing this for 7 years as the broadcast partner, and then time as a student, time as a kid. There has never been an energy like that, which was ironic because they've never played an FCS team that bad. It felt like a big game atmosphere. That place was sold out. It was standing room only. A little bit of a different look in Corvallis this weekend.
Yeah,
I'm not blaming anybody for not wanting to go to that game. It was 1,000 degrees on the field, but there were a lot of empty seats.
The picture I sent you, I got from Twitter, and I think it was a little before kick.
Yeah, it filled up a little bit more
It
than
filled up more than the photo I sent you guys. I also was 100 degrees, and I've been in that stadium when the sun's out and there's not really any shade. I don't know, man. The energy did feel weird watching through TV. So I'm not going to criticize because I wasn't there in person, but watching on TV, I couldn't tell how much of that was the fans and the noise or the CW. Because that was the other weird thing, was listening to Tom Brenneman call this game.
Yeah, did we like Tom Brenneman on the call? It took me a while to get used to it watching
He's got great pipes. It just felt very weird watching this game on the CW. Yeah. Now, you couldn't watch the Oregon game here on Comcast. You couldn't watch SEC Big Ten games in other areas with other providers.
DirecTV lost ESPN, man. If you have DirecTV, you can't get ESPN and ABC anymore.
It was a bad weekend for the satellite cord people, but it was weirdly bizarre watching it through the CW. And I couldn't tell how much of that was atmosphere versus the CW.
I also wonder too, because at moments they showed the crowd. I did make note of it because I left super early Saturday thinking Oregon State game, Oregon game, like this is going to be a madhouse on I-5. It eventually was, but the time I went, I flew, and I was like, I didn't see that many fans of really either team. I was wondering what the atmospheres were going to look like. I also wonder for fans that went to that game, maybe there were more that just didn't want to sit out in the sun the entire time, and you have all these nice new concourse. Like how many people were just walking around the concourse to stay out of the sun and go watch it on a TV and grab a beer instead of sitting there and melting when it's not. Like it was hotter than hell down in Eugene Saturday, and Corvallis I know was the same.
I think the thing for Oregon State is, I think really it's kind of for both. And if you would have told you and I this on Friday's show, we certainly wouldn't have. We would have been like, yeah, right. I think we really get a more clear definition of some things that we're both circling on these programs this weekend. Oregon State's quarterback questions, I still think they're massive. I also agree with some of the points there of they ran the ball. They didn't really need to do anything else, and they won going away.
And San Diego State was losing in the first half to his college I've never heard of before.
Precisely. Now they go on the road. They'll go to a better, a hostile. I don't know. San Diego State fans aren't bad, so they'll go to an environment, and they'll kind of figure out who they are defensively, and they'll see what McCoy will have to do in that spot. And your team faces Boise State. And so, like, if Idaho's defensive line was a problem, shouldn't Boise State's be a problem? Let's see what the adjustments are, what Bedford's return availability is, all that stuff. So I think all of these opinions and feelings are fair. It's week one, though, and we love to just... We do this in the NFL. We're going to do it this week.
Yeah, we have blue ball takes, man. They've been building all summer.
If the Jets beat the Niners next Monday, what are people going to say on Tuesday, right? It's going to be, oh, my God, the Jets are back. Yeah. And that's what it's going to be. And it's like that every year, every time. And we always get fooled, or we always know we overreact.
Every year.
And so somehow both of our programs this week, you get a team that you've never beaten come into your building after not feeling great. And then we get to go on the road to San Diego State and, like, take on one of the better Mountain West teams and see what that's going to be.
This is all of us with our takes after week one because they've been building all summer.
Oh, that man.
Just been, they've just been thinking about it. Just building. Just wanting and
wanting. Might make your head blow off.
Well, and then if we win this week by convincing fashions, we're going to be like, we're good.
I told you. Oh, man. We didn't get to the scheduling note there. I do want to get to that in the final hour. It is interesting. John Mateer, does Washington State have the best quarterback in the Northwest?
Mateer, we got a new Minshew on our hands.
5 tutties, 11 completions. They put 70 on the board this weekend.
That was fun to watch.
Yes.
Well, let me say this. It was, but also the Portland State quarterback went down with an injury.
Yes. Ricochet, is that his name?
Is it Ricochet?
I thought it was doesn't it start with a CH?
Cheshire Cat?
Cheshire?
Anyways, he's down on the field, and I looked at the score, and I wanted to tweet, but I didn't because I knew somebody would old takes expose me. I wanted to tweet, they shouldn't be allowed to play. This should not be allowed, Portland State, to go play at Washington State. This kid just died on the field.
This is why we should not.
And they're losing by 50 points.
Yeah. Well, I've ranted for weeks that I hate these opening games against FCS teams, and I was like, boy, I'm glad we played an FCS team this weekend, because if we would have played anybody with a pulse, we probably lost.
Is Barnum happy?
I think he is. He's probably making a decent amount of money. He's not going to get fired. They're not going to fire him. He's just, he's doing his thing.
Is that a never get fired job?
I think so. Does Portland State have any expectations any year?
I don't know.
Since Mouse Davis? I think there's no pressure there.
Well, there's now like 27 teams in the Big Sky, too. They keep adding them.
Yeah, massive conference.
So he's got to take the Washington State game and another one to fund the program.
Exactly. They got paid like $600K this weekend.
That paid the bills right there.
You're
That's
good.
What that did.
There's your budget, man.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about John Mateer. The Huskies got their win late Saturday night. Not great first half, but similar to a lot of teams, pulled away in the second half.
I gave up. I got to be honest.
You pulled the plug?
The Pac-12 after dark stuff's largely gone away now. We've got some night games coming up here soon. Yeah, I said, you know what?
Weber State, not worth it?
They're going to handle Weber State.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned. Jonah Coleman's running all over them. I'm out. I will check. I'll check with you in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm kind of over the night game thing. I'm getting old.
We had Big 12 and Big 10 after dark this weekend, and it just didn't seem right. Did not
The
seem
Arizona
right.
game was a much more entertaining watch.
Tutorial McMillan is a like that dude. Holy
Do we
hell.
just give him the Bolitnikov now?
Holy hell, man. Of all-time misses for us in recruiting, that dude was committed to Oregon, man. God, I'm never going to forget that one.
But also New Mexico was going back and forth with them for
Arizona's defense, a little like, what are we doing here? You know?
Fighting Brennans.
So we got a lot to get to in the final hour. We'll do some fun college football with audio as well. Have you ever ranted in front of a Denny's? We'll play that for you. And if you call into Sports Talk Radio, sometimes your wife might not be happy. Bill Oram coming up at 8:15. It's a loaded final hour. It's a football Tuesday. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Oh, hi there.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the full week one of the college football season now in the books after Florida State once again got trounced. Boston College went down to Tallahassee, rung up 263 yards on the ground for a 28-13 win. They are expected to fall all the way out of the first in-season AP Top 25 poll to be released later this morning after beginning the preseason at number 10. Sunday was the deadline for the Pac-2 teams in the Mountain West to extend their football scheduling agreement into the 2025 season. However, no deal was struck. The two sides reportedly far apart on terms, so Oregon State, Washington State without really a conference affiliation for next season. NFL regular season now takes the spotlight. Couple of teams scrambling to get key holdout players back at practice in San Francisco. Trent Williams did finally report numerous tweets saying the two parties have reached a deal. They are hammering out the final details on a contract expected to be signed later today. However, in Cincinnati, Bengals are no closer to satisfying top wide receiver Jamar Chase. Again, at practice, but not in pads, not participating in drills. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's the fan in your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Oh, I tell you, Jennifer, she is really a party pooper.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
Jennifer poops at parties? So she poops at parties, so and people know this?
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
I poop at parties. But people don't know because I close the door.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
Where do she go for it? Does she visit the water closet and make door of the open so people may see and smell things? This sounds horrible.
The Fan.
Hey, let's do this final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, live on YouTube.
Good morning, YouTube.
It feels so good to be back. Football season is in our lives, and we're just walking around.
I had a full body boner for 2 weeks.
NFL, Thursday night, Friday night, Sunday, Monday, Saturday, college football week 2. Although the slate this week in college football.
It sucks. Yeah, I looked at it. My daughter starts soccer. Dude. I got to be a soccer coach this year. That just dropped.
Texas and Michigan is really the only, somebody did a ranking of games this weekend, and Boise State, Oregon was like the 4th game.
Do we have a kick time for Michigan, Texas?
9 a.m.
It's the nooner.
Ooh,
nooner right out of the gate.
Okay, soccer. Okay, I'll see a decent chunk of that. I'll DVR probably the second half of that, but
that's your nooner.
Yeah,
and
college slate is much more like
Arkansas, Oklahoma State's also at 9 a.m.
I don't care. I tell you something crazy to say out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar and Patrick Mahomes are always must-watch TV, right?
They are.
I think I'm more jacked for Friday's game.
I think I'm more excited for Monday's game.
If he stays healthy past the first quarter, I'll be there.
Well, just that. Is he going to stay healthy? What if he gets hurt again? He hasn't played a game in a year.
Hey, breaking
going against
news.
Nick Bosa on an election year? Good luck, dude.
Mega sack!
It's going to rip your head off, man. He's fired up.
He's 40 coming off an Achilles. If he gets hurt, nobody is shocked.
Have fun with that.
What are we doing?
NFL is almost here, and we're loving every second of it. Thanks for being with us. Oram again coming up in 10 minutes. Let's briefly touch on the Cougs and the Huskies who got opening wins this weekend. I asked a poll question last night on Twitter. We'll update the responses to this by the end of the show, but you know, we had an Oregon State fan texting in a little bit earlier, a little bit of panic, not blowing out Idaho State start to finish. I think a little nitpicky. We'll find out more about them in the upcoming week. Who will win more games this year in the Pac-2, Oregon State or Washington State? Now, voting on this stuff is always, who's more in your fan base.
Right.
Oregon State running away with it. Look, Washington State did give up 30 to Portland State, which, not ideal. Not ideal.
That was garbage scoring by Portland State.
It was. Well, they had 17 in the first half, 13 in the second half, so more in the first half than they did in the second half. But I did think from, just wondering what's John Mateer going to look like. Never really heard of this dude before. He's named the starter in camp.
Mm-hmm.
They had 600, what was the total yardage they got at the end of the game?
Mateer was unreal. He's the leading passer in college football.
637 yards of offense, almost 700 yards of offense. They looked the part offensively, man. And speaking of big games, host Texas Tech this weekend in a 7:00 kick on Fox. It's one of the more interesting games of week 2 for me for the Cougs.
Yeah, because Texas Tech almost lost to Abilene Christian.
Abilene Christian, I believe they were down.
Had to go to overtime in that game. And so Texas Tech is a very winnable game, I think, for Washington State. Who wins the most games between those two teams? I still think it's too early to gauge. You can guess where I voted.
Oh, give me your hot take. I want hot takes on a Monday.
It's Oregon State.
Okay, there you go.
You gave up 30 to Portland State. What are we doing? You only won by 40 points. What are you doing?
They did cover the spread in week 1.
Mateer, he looked the part. I mean, if you wanted we had said this about some of the schools locally last week of Husky fan wants to walk out and go, hey, we smacked Weber State, and you didn't score the most points you've ever scored, but they didn't do anything against you. Coleman looks like a beast. You just want to walk out feeling good. I don't care that Portland State scored 30. It's like the Ohio State-Oregon State game all over again. Beaver fans celebrating scoring 31. I'm like, Ohio State beat you by 40.
Yeah, it was 70 to 30.
There was a 7 on that scoreboard. And that's where I'd be if I was Washington State. That's all you wanted to see from John Mateer and company. Now, what they do against Texas Tech, it's going to be a significantly harder opponent. I know they struggled against Abilene, but I'd venture to say Texas Tech better than Portland State.
Yes.
So I picked Oregon State, but John Mateer at least settles some nerves of, okay, we don't know what this is because of what we lost, but our coach is back. He has his own system.
Yeah.
Let's handle business against what Jessamine McIntyre said on Friday. Been a bit of a thorn in the side, Portland State. They've won some games. They've also been upset by Portland State.
They
So
have.
you just handled business. You largely blew them out the whole way through. That's all you want to see from a John Mateer.
The Huskies did run away. They were up 14-0 at the half. I turned it off, I think, late third quarter. When they made it 28-3, I was like, all right, that's enough for me.
I saw enough Weber State to say 14-0 is good enough.
Yeah, Jonah Coleman did run all over them. I think you're finding an identity for Washington. They're going to be a team that runs the football. Jonah Coleman is a stud. Will Rogers was fine. Nothing really to take note of there. Speaking of managing schedules or manageable schedules, the Huskies this week welcome Eastern Michigan to town. Again on the Big Ten Network. So the Huskies take care of business in week one. Not much to report out of a 35-3 win over Weber State. Let's get to some fun with audio from the opening weekend of the season. One guy, you got any lingering thoughts?
No, it's just hilarious. They are actively searching for this dog poop Florida State fan.
They can't find him. He's disappeared.
He's falling off the radar.
He thinks we're just not going to remember that he tweeted he's going to eat dog poop out of a red Solo cup. We're not forgetting that, dude. That doesn't happen. The internet always remembers.
Why say it?
I know, it's ridiculous.
It's like, did you want to eat dog poop? Is that why you threw that out there?
Yeah, it was one of those, you're trying to convince yourself that you're still confident in your team, so you say the craziest thing imaginable, and then boy, oh boy, did it backfire. Mike Gundy is somebody who was always good for a colorful quote. Remember him in the offseason? Who hasn't had a couple of drinks and driven around? That was Mike Gundy in the offseason. Here's Mike Gundy. They beat South Dakota State. That was an upset alert for a lot of folks.
Kirk Herbstreit picked him.
He did. That was a trendy pick for a lot of folks. They win the game, and here is Mike Gundy talking about how helmet communications went in game one.
I can't. They won't let me hear it. If anybody's a good IT guy, we'll get the guy from Michigan down here and let him hook me up. Even though he didn't do it. What was that song in, what was that song? You should know. Yeah, the song, it was kind of a partial rap in the shower. It caught me. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. What was it? Yeah. It wasn't me. Yeah, that's right. It wasn't me. I know that was you. It wasn't me. I can't. They won't let me hear it.
They won't let me hear it. Let's get Connor Stallions on the call. He's good for an opening quote. Mike Gundy got a nice win.
Boy, shot at Michigan there, and everybody watched Michigan this week and went, oh, you guys deserve this.
Yes. Yeah, they talk about struggle in your opening game. They were in a dogfight with Fresno State. Speaking of which, and being thankful for other people, Syracuse got a nice opening win, 38-22 over Ohio. The mighty Bobcats of Ohio. A nice 1-0 start for Syracuse.
Solich no longer there.
Solich is no longer there. They have a new starting quarterback. I don't even remember this. Kyle McCord is there. He threw 4 tutties, 354 yards. Here is Fran Brown, the head coach at Syracuse, after the game.
I mean, Kyle's a good football player. You've seen it right there. I should send Ryan Day a bottle of champagne for allowing us to get him.
Send Ryan Day
That guy's name is Fran.
Fran Brown, I believe.
He sounds
is that his
like
name?
a Fran. Like, if Fran talked a certain way, that's how he'd sound.
So I wrote that down. I'm assuming that's his name. I didn't look up the
They fired Dino Babers for a Fran Brown.
They got Farmer
Can
Fran.
we play that one more? Just listen to this accent.
I mean, Kyle's a good football player. You've seen it right there. I should send Ryan Day a bottle of champagne for allowing us to get him.
There is a little Farmer Fran in that. There is absolutely a little water boy for you there. So Kyle McCord, they're very thankful for having him at Syracuse. Now, I was close to this. If things went wrong on Saturday in Eugene, I would have been in front of the burrito boy being this in the car. But it did not. Thankfully, they won the game. Florida, however, did not win their game against Miami. They struggled, and they got boat raced, and their coach couldn't open a water bottle after the game. And a fan pulled into a Denny's parking lot and was just not happy.
My name is Josh Sprague, and I come to y'all humble as I can. It's game one.
Is this edited?
I love the Florida Gators.
I think so.
I hope so.
I die for the Florida Gators. The University of Florida football team has me sitting in front of a Denny's, damn it. When the last time you on purpose went and sat in front of a damn Denny's, damn it? I'm not saying nothing disrespectful to Denny's, but there's a lot of other options. And that Gator team, after watching Miami fans came in there. I've never seen nothing like this. It would look like it was about 12 of them at the start of the game. And then it multiplied. Went from 12 to 20,000 to 40,000. They had a little corner in the left side of the stadium over there, and they were saying things I wanted to know so bad what they was chanting at us. And then the damn quarterback, he was moving in fast, slow motion. He was looking like Neo in the Matrix. He ain't look that great, but damn it, he was great.
It was about a 4-minute rant. I just had Sprague pull about 45 seconds.
I put a poll question up. Have you ever sat sad in front of a Denny's? Yes or no? I have, actually. I've been sad.
You've been there
in front of a
Denny's? I think, yeah.
And then I went over and ordered a Grand Slam breakfast.
Feel better about yourself, don't you? It's a great way to cheer yourself up.
Look, Denny's takes a real hit in our society nowadays.
They do.
There's a lot of them closing left and right. It's there. Tim Allen said it in Santa Claus. It's always open.
It's
just
always open, man. One last one here. One last bit of audio to play before we get to Bill Oram coming up in a moment. We are not a call-in show, but there are a lot of radio shows around the country that are call-in shows, and this happened down in Knoxville, Tennessee. So Tennessee, I'm assuming,
They
won this
blew
weekend.
their opponent
They
out,
beat a nobody, right?
Nico looked good.
Rocky Top.
Rocky Top feeling good?
Nico looking good.
So they were doing a little post-game show, and a fan called in. He's all excited. Tennessee looked good. We're feeling good down here in Knoxville. And so you're going to have to, listen closely. But somebody chimes in while the listener's on the phone with the radio show, giving his thoughts on the post-game show, and see if you can catch the voice.
And they're Florida recruits. These guys are good.
That's why I think they'd pull the trigger pretty quickly on getting rid of Billy.
Get off the damn sports radio. It doesn't matter to your family. It's a loser situation. My dad needs your help.
Cosmo Chris.
I'm with you. I know you don't care. I'll take your $2.5 million.
Oh, that's
Take
a first.
Your $2.5 million.
It's really not.
Guy live on the air is getting berated by his
super rich
Get
dude.
off the damn sports radio. What are you doing? My dad needs your help.
It's a loser situation. She's not wrong.
Any of you texting in, you're not losers. We love you all, man. We're all here. We're all in it together.
Well, I certainly have this same thought go through my head on Saturday night when I'm watching a game at 9:30 at night. What am I doing right now?
Just sitting on the couch.
Why am I watching this?
Hour number 12 rolls on of a college football Saturday.
Are you going to talk about this game on Monday?
No,
Not at all.
no, not really. I
Won't talk about it actually any day of the week.
Nope, I just wanted to see it, damn it. So a caller gets berated by his wife live on sports radio. There is your Fun with Audio college football
We got to get to
edition.
Brian Kelly audio later.
Brian Kelly slammed the table. We haven't even played that yet.
Damn it, we're here again. Damn it.
Bill Oram, the columnist of the Oregonian, what did he make of the opening weekend for the Ducks and Beavers? He was in Corvallis and then had to write a column about the Ducks. What does he make of all of it? That is next on The Fan.
It's time for a sports injury report. The injuries and rehab that impact the success of sports teams. Brought to you by Rock Orthopedic.
A day after taking a bullet to the chest in an apparent robbery, the 49ers rookie wide receiver Ricky Pearsall has been released from the hospital. Now, his mother, Erin, posted on social media that the bullet entered his chest, exited his back, and missed any vital organs.
Zubin Mehenti on ESPN. Ricky Pearsall got shot this weekend, and that's, again, loaded Tuesday, lost in the shuffle. Thankfully, he's okay. That's horrifying.
The video was even crazier. He's walking to the ambulance. We couldn't confirm at first if it was Pearsall or if a guy was just going around shooting other people.
Did he take the guy's gun and shoot the other guy, too, in a struggle? Did I read that correctly?
I missed that part of that happen, but I saw him, and he took the shirt off going to the ambulance. You could see the blood. He's lucky it exited. No major organs were hit. He's going to be out at least the first 4 weeks, but just a crazy story in San Francisco.
Terrifying. Sports Injury Report presented by Rock Orthopedic, board-certified specialists who diagnose and treat the widest range of orthopedic cases with care and expertise. To schedule an appointment with Dr. Mark Wagner, visit rocpdx.com.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
One listener texting into the Vancouver Ford text line saying that's probably how my wife feels when I accidentally text her instead of the fan. I appreciate that. That's pretty solid. Oh, my bad, honey. That was meant for the guys. Sorry.
It's like 9 questions from your wife. You're just texting about depth on the offensive line of
mail
Oregon.
sack question. If you could have no hands or feet, why are you texting me? Oh, sorry. Listen to sports.
Let's go to Home Depot this weekend. We need Bedford back.
You're damn right we do. Joining us now is our good friend Bill Oram, columnist of the Oregonian. I love when people locally get accused of being homers and anti of both local schools. That means you're probably doing something right. At Bill Oram on Twitter. Bill, I think we're missing the plot here. Oregon's a new team in the Big Ten. I thought we were supposed to play like a Big Ten team now. They showed up. They played like Iowa. Why are they not being applauded for this?
I mean, there is some truth to that. I mean, the fact that, Idaho, which had some history with Oregon going back a century, maybe was not too happy about the depth of the Pac-12 either and really rose to the occasion. There's so many ways to look at this at Saturday's game and the near miss that was. And I think one of the ways I'm mostly not looking at it is that this is like a 5-alarm crisis for the Ducks. I think I'm willing to at least have a certain degree of patience with them, despite the fact that was a highly unusual and uncharacteristic opening performance for this program. I don't know. I need to see more before I really decide that this team is in trouble. I think that the more likely outcome is that this is the outlier and we still see the team that we thought we were going to see throughout the year. I mean, questions on the offensive line, they're going to have to shore up. Obviously there's some health concerns there. That's the biggest area of concern, but everywhere else, statistically the Ducks did not perform that poorly. Defensively, they were solid. I just am not quite ready to, sound the alarm and start thinking doomsday.
Well, and they take on an opponent that largely just wants to run the football, and their defense, to your point, also had a pretty good performance. We're not talking about the defense today. It's all offensive line related. I think the only thing I would ask, though, in the follow-up, because I think we're kind of with you. I think Dirt's pressing the alarm button a little harder because he's an alum and he really wants his team to do well.
Right.
I think part of it for me is just like, a lot of this noise was brought on by themselves. Their coach was the one out Big Ten Media Day saying, we're the team out west, and they're floating ducks in rivers, and it's all about this and that. And they like to kind of bring it on, and a lot of pundits are buying in, and it's not that they can't be it. I think for me, it's just like, all right, all this noise, and you struggle with Idaho, and like that's the concerning part to me.
I mean, I agree with that completely, Brandon. And like, I got a great reader email, and I think this reader, I just pulled it up as you were saying it because it just captured the sentiment so well. But basically, that the ad campaign and all the noise that the Ducks have come in with, and basically, even the ad last week with the duck on the dirt bike, carving an O and the tradition of the Big Ten. This reader. John said basically it implies that the Ducks are on their way to a national championship this season, guaranteed. And that's risky because if you win, it's awesome. But if you perform like you did against Idaho, you look ridiculous. And so right now, even though the Ducks won, they do look a little ridiculous because what they've done on the field so far, in contrast to what they said they were, are completely out of sync. But they can fix that. Like that doesn't have to be the definition of this season. It's something they have to wear for a week. But if you don't get it fixed against Boise State, if you struggle against Boise or, are losing to Boise, I mean, certainly if you lose to the Broncos, but you need to have a bounce back performance in a big way this weekend. Otherwise, the chirping will intensify. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I thought the column was well put. The headline was perfect. Like, it doesn't have to be an upset to be upsetting. I don't know if I've ever watched a game that felt more like a loss that was a win than that one for Oregon. And now I think to your larger point, the question becomes, is that the driving force of the wake-up call maybe of like, all right, we can't just steamroll everybody by showing up. And if they come out and do it against Boise, a lot of that noise will die down and you'll say, okay, Oregon's a good team. You were in Corvallis this weekend, right, Bill?
Yeah, I was at the Oregon State Idaho State game, which around the late in the third quarter of the OSU game started to feel like a bad decision.
Yeah, you're like, hey, I picked the wrong. I mean, I don't blame it going in. We all had the same thought of like, oh, these will be blowouts, but Oregon's going to win by 80. They beat Portland State by like 80 last year. What was the reaction of being in Corvallis? The start of a new era for them. Obviously, a tight game in the first half, but they pull away in the second half. What was the crowd atmosphere like? Just what were the takeaways from being in Corvallis this weekend?
it kind of felt like a typical opening weekend against an FCS team. You know, you kind of go into that sort of thing thinking that you're going to be smacked in the face by some, you know, oh, it's a new era. It's, you know, the Pac-12 is gone. It's going to feel so different. And it really didn't. And I would also say, you know, one of the downsides to playing a game like that against Idaho State, a team that I mean, say what you will about the Ducks in Idaho, Oregon State, I don't think you could play that game 100 times. They're not losing to Idaho State.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can talk to me about Idaho State's passing offense last year and all that, and I think they are a little better year over year. But that is just a matchup that is not going to go the way of the Bengals. And so I don't feel like we learned anything about the Beavers really. I mean, I thought Giovanni McCoy looked pretty good. He didn't put the ball in the air a lot. You know, 9 of 10, but he managed the offense well. I thought he seemed in good sync with his. With the running backs, I mean, obviously, you know, Jam and Anthony Hankerson both had huge days. It's not going to look exactly like that against, you know, FBS opponents. But I thought that they had a good rhythm. I thought the offense, you know, played with, you know, I thought the script was good. So I was encouraged by the offense. The defense early left something to be desired. But I would also say, I mean, you know, the Beavers are losing at the end of the first quarter. That first quarter saw them, you know, score early, then go on another big drive, only for Jam Griffin to turn the ball over, fumble it, and then you have a safety where, you know, the backup long snapper puts it through the back of the end zone. And those are both in the first quarter when they're losing 9-7, and then they go on to roll the rest of the way. So, you know, you take out those early miscues on the first quarter of a new season, and we're not even talking about that game being particularly close. So the Beavers, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of where I was on the Beavers before, which is, you know, they should be mostly fine this season, kind of in that anywhere from 6 to 8 win range. 6 would be low, 8 or 9 would be high. But, you know, I thought McCoy sort of solidified his position. I know Jabari had that nice touchdown drive. And I will say I thought it was interesting that we didn't see Ben Branson in that game because you know, the sense from Trent Bray had been that all 3 quarterbacks would play, or that certainly Ben was kind of that number 2. And, you know, it seems like they're scripting a series for Jabari, and then Giovanni was in good rhythm, and it kind of seems like those are the 2 quarterbacks you're going to see the vast majority of this year.
They have a pretty big road game this weekend against San Diego State, so we'll see what they do and how they respond from maybe a slow start this weekend and how they finished out. I am curious, the news that they have they've allowed the time to go by with their scheduling agreement with the Mountain West. That's not going to happen now. What do you foresee with Oregon State? Is there a conference, some pointing to the Big 12. People like to point to the ACC because of the Clemson, Florida State stuff. How do you foresee the scheduling aspect, I think, of Oregon State? Because the unfortunate thing is it is football season. We care a great deal about the team, but they still have this elephant in the room with them that we still kind of have to pay attention to. How do you see their scheduling going forward? Do you think they're going to lean one conference over another or just be all over the place?
Well, I think that what the Mountain West has taught us is, you know, this Mountain West partnership has taught us is you can sort of integrate these 2 teams with a partnership, a scheduling partnership without really disrupting conference play or the conference schedule. You know, the Mountain West is going to function largely as the Mountain West has. You know, obviously Oregon State and Washington State aren't eligible for the Mountain West, you know, championship game. I think that the Beavers and presumably the Cougars would love to see what that looks like with a Big 12, with the ACC. Is it possibly a hybrid? Is there a way that you make it where you're going to play 2 Mountain West schools? I mean, what would it need to be? Where you're playing 2 Mountain West schools, 2 Big 12 schools, and 2 or 3 ACC schools? You know, could you sort of plant your flag sort of all over the place, like you said, where it's not all in with a partnership with one conference, the Mountain West? I mean, obviously, you know, Oregon State would never disparage the Mountain West in this way, but it's like you could have an alliance with a conference. You'd rather it was the ACC or the Big 12 because you view yourself at that level, a Power 4 conference. So I think that that's kind of where they're looking. It doesn't rule out the possibility of returning to the Mountain West. I think relations between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West are strong. I think this has been a positive and productive partnership. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Mountain West still be a part of it going forward. I just think, you know, these 2, the proverbial Pac-2 just wants to take a bite out of the Big 12, the ACC, and sort of, you know, put themselves more on the Power 4 conference map than they are going to be this year. Because, you know, for the Beavers, it's, you know, Purdue, Oregon, Cal, and that's your Power 4 schedule.
Yeah, the tough part with that, too, is that if you're going to play a Mountain West schedule largely, you would want to at least get the benefits of being in the Mountain West, and if you win it, you could have a chance to go to a college football playoff, and they're kind of in that weird no man's land without having a home. So I tend to agree with you there. Last one for you, Bill. We famously had you not years ago, but months ago, write a column that you were going to eat your shirt if the city didn't get a WNBA team. Now, everybody online right now is looking for a Florida State fan who's supposed to eat poop out of a cup. So thankfully you didn't go that far, but is there vindication for Bill Oram? We got news that it looks like a WNBA team might be coming, and your shirt will not need to be eaten.
Well, I mean, first of all, credit to Sean Hyken on that one. I mean, that's the scoop of the year locally, if that ends up coming to fruition. But like what I had said, and I think I wrote this in March or April or sometime, I kind of took a victory lap on the shirt thing already, mostly to get the haters to stop telling me to eat the thing. But once the dust had settled from the Kirk Brown debacle and the really weird messaging from Kathy Engelbert, pinning the deal falling apart on the Blazers, which was not true. The chatter around the WNBA and with the people who were invested locally was just a matter of time. And it was, the WNBA added Toronto, obviously the Bay Area team starts next year. And it became basically Portland is next. I was told like 99% it was going to happen. And so it seems like we are moving closer to that based on what's out there. And, I think that's going to be a great thing for the city of Portland. I think it's going to be a great thing for the region. And, sports are separate from politics and everything else. But also I think for the city of Portland, I think, having an outside entity like the WNBA look at Portland and say, yes, this is where we want to put our next expansion team. This is a city we want to invest in. This is a city we want to grow with. I think it's such a meaningful win for the city of Portland after the last 5 years. So I'm really excited for that, for somebody to really believe in Portland and to build something in Portland, in the sports sense. This is a great, great, great city for women's sports. It's a great basketball city. The Portland Fire were supported when they were here 20 years ago. It wasn't a lack of fan support that killed the Fire. You see a lot of noise about that people don't realize that the Fire had 10,000 fans at every game, which in 2002 was a really good turnout for the WNBA. And so I think the city's going to support the WNBA when it arrives. And I told Jenny at the Sports Bra that she could have my Natalie Williams jersey, and other people could eat while looking at it. So Jenny, if you still want it, we can work something out.
Who wins the title first, the WNBA team or the Blazers?
Ooh.
Well, it's a trick question. No, it's an unfair question. It's a mean question.
It is an unfair question.
Considering we don't have a WNBA team at this point in the city of Portland, and presumably that team would start in 2026, you're talking about an expansion team. By 2026, I would like to think that we see the Blazers really kind of starting to put it in gear. They're going to have Cooper Flagg by then.
We could have Juju Watkins.
At which point I'm going to say that the Blazers will be 3 years away. They're probably going to win the title in the 50th anniversary of the 77 team.
Okay.
So just in the name of preserving good relations throughout the state, I'll say the Blazers. Although, again, much smaller league. It'll be a 16-team league, so the math would say the W team. Yeah. How's that for being diplomatic?
That is a great political answer right there. Bill Oram running for an office near you. He's the columnist at the Oregonian. Great stuff on both the Ducks and the Beavs this weekend. Exciting news to come, obviously, with the WNBA stuff on the horizon. At Bill Oram on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Thanks for the time this morning, man. We always appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Bill Oram. Exciting news.
We might have Flagg, but we also might have Juju Watkins.
We could. She's got 2 more years left to college.
Well, she was a freshman. I think the women is 3, right?
3 and you can go?
If she makes enough money, she might just say, you know what?
Can we grab Sabrina in the expansion
free agency
draft?
Yeah, or something. Yeah,
there was a lot of Duck Sabrina fans at that Seattle Liberty game. Yeah,
I saw that Caitlin Clark played a game in Chicago. Isn't that the big rivalry? Her and Angel Reese, and it was like all Indiana Caitlin Clark fans.
Well, no, that was.
Was that a different team?
I think it was It was a different team, and they were like, "Hey, we love the support." It's
and everybody
great.
was upset.
I thought that was the Connecticut Sun.
Was it?
up at the Mohegan or wherever they play up
Well,
there.
that's cool. It's a great time to get into the league, and very exciting. Good reporting from Hiking over the weekend on that news. And there you go, Bill Oram, the columnist at the Oregonian. Let's get back into the local teams, including poll questions, some things that we've missed so far throughout the course of the show today. How are we feeling about the Ducks and the Beavers? Your thoughts are welcome, as always, to the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. We'll show you the poll questions and update all that next. First Year Swag with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by PG Long Floor Covering. Carpet, hardwood, or laminate, flooring, cleaning, or restoration. Call PG Long, your Northwest flooring experts. PGLongLLC.com. First on The Fan. College football fans awaiting the first in-season AP Top 25 poll that'll be released a little later this morning. Seeing just how concerned the collective media is over that closer-than-expected win by the Ducks over Idaho on Saturday. Curious to see if Florida State is ranked at all after the Seminoles started the preseason at 10 and are 0-2, losing at home to Boston College Monday night 28-13, having given up 263 yards on the ground to the Eagles. Sunday was the deadline for the Pac-2 and the Mountain West to extend their football scheduling arrangement into the 2025 season. However, no deal was struck. The two sides reportedly far apart on terms. The Kansas City Chiefs will open up the NFL season on Thursday. They will not have running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He has been placed on the physically unable to perform list that will keep him out for at least the first 4 games of the season. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
One number does it all for This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Well, for those of you watching on YouTube this morning, I battled through a floppy microphone. I got a flaccid mic over here. It just can't stay up.
Yeah, whose fault is that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Satanic or meringues?
Somebody's just, rattling this thing too much and screaming into it. I don't get it, but I'm getting an arm workout in here, working on my bis and my tris over here on a Tuesday. Don't mind me.
Little work complaint. You got a floppy mic.
I do, yeah.
I had to come in here, and I don't know who it is.
Uh-huh.
I think it's Joe Fisher.
Probably. Let's blame him. That's fine with me.
Leaves his mic condom on every time.
Yeah, take your condom off.
So you know what I do?
I don't want to touch it.
I flick the bottom of that thing, and it flies. I don't even know where it is. I just get the hell out of here. What are you doing?
You don't leave your condom on. You take it off when you're done.
Always take it off.
Didn't we learn that lesson?
Sharon over here.
A long time ago, and I got to use that thing again. It's gross. Let's ask quickly before I get to the poll question on Oregon, how concerned should they be after only beating Idaho by 10? What did you two Beavers make of the news that next year will not, we haven't talked about that yet, that next year will not be Mountain West?
Not
scheduling.
surprising.
Not surprising?
Kind of felt like that was the MO from the start. Just use them, abuse them, and then move on.
Use them and abuse them for a
start
year.
Abusing them this weekend.
Now, is the goal to because I don't think there's probably anything conference invite on the horizon in the next 6 months, right? And
Be in the good graces.
Be in the good graces.
Look as a.
Are we going to just go independent for another year and hopefully schedule more Power 5 schools? Is that the goal? Does that make you happy?
Well, you've got Big 12 teams on the horizon anyway.
You do.
You can get some ACC teams in here. Cal Stanford help fit that bill a lot
Half
for them.
their schedule is set for next year.
Yeah.
So they only need like 5 or 6 games.
That is very true. I will tell you what it is. Next year, their future opponents, Cal's already on the books.
ACC.
Fresno State at home, both those at home. On the road at Texas Tech.
Yep, Big 12.
At Oregon in the Civil War.
Yep.
Houston is also on the books.
Big 12.
Yep.
And then it's at TBA Portland State. So maybe that's your,
yeah.
a random non-conference game you throw in there somewhere. So to Swag's point, that's half of your schedule is already set. And of those, 4 of the 6 are Power 4 schools.
Well, you're looking at this is the thing that sucks about this, and part of the reason I don't like talking about it as much is because we know Florida State, Clemson are in an active legal battle with the ACC to be out of it.
Yep.
And if that happens, the ACC might get desperate, and now, hey, we can make a West Coast hub with Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, Cal, and then keep trying to build out from there and save this conference. I don't know what the future of the college football playoff, if they lost Florida State, Clemson, if they'd be deemed non-power worthy, and then you have Power 3. I don't know, but that would be kind of the collective thought, I would think, because I've seen no real evidence outside of Twitter fodder that suggests the Big 12 is in a position of wanting to take Oregon State, Washington State. They're kicking around UConn for hoops. They want Gonzaga for hoops.
Yeah.
And then in 2030, bring on UConn football. That feels like a long way right now. So the ACC might be the more obvious choice of if they lose their 2 big powers. And by the way, if Miami's still in that conference and that conference doesn't completely crumble.
Mario having to come back to Corvallis late in November would be kind of funny.
Hey, we beat them once. We can do it again. I think it'd be okay. That would be your saving grace is the ACC if they were to lose their 2 top teams.
Tend to agree with that. And I think the Big 12's in a position where they want to see what happens with Florida State, Clemson. I don't see them making – basketball moves are separate. Gonzaga, UConn doesn't affect football. To your point with UConn, it wouldn't be until 2030. They want to be the premier basketball conference, so that's why they're bantering about that. I don't see them wanting to add anybody outside of Florida State or Clemson in the short term. And so I think you're kind of left waiting there. But to Swag's point, half your schedule's already set. So you go find a couple more Power 4 schools that you can schedule, a couple of ACC schools here or there.
Schedule the service academy.
Get the service academies.
Navy or something.
No, I want to... No disrespect to the service academies, but you have this certain amount of respect, and you can't really ask
about
playing.
I don't think your other 6 you're going to get all Power 4 schools.
You want as many as you can.
I
you
want
have 4 right
all
now
of them
on the books. If you could get up to 7 Power 4 games on your schedule,
I want all of them.
I think that now all of them would be the ideal solution. There.
Then are you willing to go on the road for the
Hell
bulk
yeah,
of them?
brother.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
I mean, that's part of this, right? You say you deserve it, and I think you do, but you can also go earn it even more.
Yeah, go beat somebody in their own building.
Yeah.
Have a chance to shut them up. Thought here at the Vancouver Ford text line, Dirt, get your hand away from the panic button. It was one game, I'm sure, as well as Lanning and the staff prepared the players. They thought they could mail it in and roll. It might be a good thing. They learned a lesson. Don't take any opponent lightly. We'll know a lot more after week 2. I
There's some
don't
truth to that. But
I don't disagree with the overall sentiment. I just dude, you beat Idaho by 10 points. You can't tell me to not overreact to that. This isn't like me coming in and being like, they won 42-14 and didn't cover a 43-point spread or a 47-point spread and bitching and moaning that wasn't enough of a margin of victory. You converted a fourth down late in the game to score a touchdown to go up by 10, that if you don't convert that, Idaho has the ball down by 3 in the fourth quarter with a chance to drive and tie the game or take the lead. That's the reality that we're living in. So I agree with the majority of the sentiment. I'm not pressing the button yet. But to insinuate that you shouldn't hover it at least is a little misleading to me. I did ask the poll question, how concerned should the Ducks be? Time to panic, very concerned, somewhat concerned, or calm down, it's week 1. Somewhat concerned is your number one answer, 44%, followed by calm down, it's week 1, and then very concerned.
Far and away, as logical and reasonable as that is, far and away of the top 10 teams in this preseason ranking, that doesn't matter, but we make it matter because we have to care about these games a little more.
Everybody else took care of business, other than Florida State.
They were the most concerning team in the top 10. Yes. And I think Michigan was probably second, but Michigan ended up winning by 20 and kind of handling things in the fourth quarter.
Against a Mountain West team, not an FCS team.
And so I think that is, to your point, the panic button hover is like, one, I don't agree that Lanning overlooked it. He's not that dude. But also, for all the talking and noise, that's concerning that they came in that way. It's an FCS team. I just, at the top 10, it was like far and away, Oregon was the most disappointing one.
Yeah, and the spread is still there for the Boise State. I mean, you're still a 3-touchdown
right?
favorite. It opened at 20. I think it's down to 19 or something like that. So a little money's coming in on Boise. I don't blame anybody for wanting to gamble on
this
that.
This is the weekend to calm the nerves for everybody.
You come out, blow them out, dude.
Yes.
I'm right. The glass is going back on top of the panic button. We're not breaking it yet until hopefully October 12th.
If you break it, you can't just put it back on.
No, we're going to rebuild the glass. We'll recover it.
Right.
It'll be rebuilt. The button has not been pressed yet. Okay, we're not in an alert, and we're not in an emergency quite yet, but we're close. We're teetering on it. We'll answer the rest of the poll questions, wrap you up on a Tuesday next on The Fan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. What a day. What a show.
Can I give you a baseball stat?
Sure, fire away. Is that season still going?
It's
Are they still playing?
happening.
The
Yeah.
Mariners lose to the A's yesterday.
God, they just keep getting walked
Suffered
off.
Has that coffin been put in the ground?
Walk-off defeat of the season.
Has that officially been buried?
No.
We're
Not
not
yet.
burying them yet? Still alive?
I'm not a Mariner fan, so I don't know. But
Okay.
not yet.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think it was Friday, I want to say, maybe Saturday.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how I saw this stat, but I saw a stat and it blew my mind, and I said, I have to at least mention it. We don't talk about it, but I got to mention it on
Look at you
Tuesday's show.
sneaking baseball into a football Tuesday. This better be the craziest stat I have ever heard in my entire life.
The Cardinals beat the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, and it was their first win in Yankee Stadium since 1964.
Okay, that's a pretty crazy stat. That's pretty crazy.
Now, I looked it up. I was like,
how many
what?
times have they played?
They had only played 7 times since 1964 when they met in the World Series.
In New York or total?
In New York. This was specifically at Yankee Stadium. It was
So,
their first win at Yankee Stadium.
In every other
since
series, they
64.
got swept at Yankee Stadium?
Yeah, they hadn't won a game at Yankee Stadium since 64.
That's a pretty bonkers stat.
Thank you.
Pretty bonkers.
Okay.
I'll grant that. Baseball
Yeah.
talk allowed. You give me a stat like that.
Yeah.
Allowed. Allow you
Thank
time on the floor.
Thank you.
By the way, thanks everybody watching on YouTube today. If you are watching right now and you've not done so yet, subscribe to the channel. We're over 3,000 subscribers now on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. You can watch all the stuff.
There we go.
Little clips of every show. Every show is live. Even the Duck stuff on Saturdays live on YouTube now. Everything's
there you
live
go.
on
Look at
YouTube.
you.
So
Yeah.
subscribe to the channel and like the video if you're watching. We appreciate all of you. I'm going to try and do this most Mondays. Today is a Tuesday, but we didn't have a show yesterday. And I will ask you each one in college football, one in the NFL. Now, this week not applicable for the NFL. That will come into effect next Monday.
Okay.
I would like to hear your gentleman's biggest winner of the college football weekend.
Yeah.
And biggest loser. Now, you go team, you go individual, you go player. You can choose whatever you want. Biggest winner, biggest loser of the weekend.
This is easy ones for me on both counts. Florida State lost, so it's easy to say them. My biggest loser is far and away Clemson.
Clemson?
I'm sorry. You cannot be top 5 talent composite, 0 transfer portals, and put your nose in the air at everybody with a pulse who tells you that's a mistake, the new world is here, and then show up and get boat raced by 31 points by Georgia. It's ridiculous. If we were doing radio in Clemson, I'd be going nuts on Dabo right now. And far and away, my winner.
Biggest winner.
There's some good wins this weekend.
Penn
Miami
State,
was great.
Notre Dame, Miami. A lot of people to choose from.
Those are all good. USC.
Okay.
You showed up to Vegas. You were outmanned in attendance by fans.
I've seen
LSU easily had a home game compared to you.
Yep.
You're replacing Caleb. Your defense was a sieve last year. Like, you checked the boxes for me. USC gets my best of the weekend.
Okay, Swag, winner, loser?
Biggest loser is Florida. Like,
Florida,
I
yeah.
think their season is over. I really do.
It's a good feeling
Even
in week
more
one.
than Florida State because the ACC.
That's a hot take, though. I like that.
The ACC, they could still come back and win.
They're 0-2 in conference play. They're benching their quarterback.
But Florida's season is over. It really is.
I think the state of Florida.
The biggest winner, a shout out to Vanderbilt.
Hey, I like that
won
one.
in overtime
They
against
did.
a
Virginia
Power
Tech.
4 school.
Hey, you won a game.
Let's
They
go.
won a game.
Hey.
Shout out to Vanderbilt.
Okay, that's a good. That's an under the radar winner right there. I like that, Swag. If you missed it, we had Bill Oram on.
Who's yours?
Because I'm just hosting the segment. We got to go, baby. We're out of
your
time.
biggest loser. You've been panicking the
The
button
biggest,
all morning.
biggest winner is Notre Dame for me. Notre Dame, that's the only challenging
It's a good road
game
win.
until the last week of the season. So that's my biggest winner. Biggest loser. Yeah, I mean, my team beat Idaho by 10. What do you want from me here, okay? I'm in a glass case of emotions. We broke it all down, and if you want to hear our talk on Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, all of the action this weekend, go check the podcast, 1080thefan.com, at Dirt and Sprague, and at 1080thefan. Tomorrow, there's going to be all sorts of leftovers, things we didn't get to today. It's the eve of the NFL season tomorrow. Are you kidding me? Sports pants are tight. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of our Tuesday. We will talk to you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Calling us next, listening to 1080 The Fan.